Hello and welcome to Scion, Dragon. It is known heroes walk the land to do the will of the gods, and sometimes the titans. They wage war in an attempt to snuff the other out, and they do not necessarily care about the collateral damage. However, before the gods and titans were even formed, dragons existed. This world belonged to them, and if their heirs and flights have anything to say about it, it will belong to them again. The dragonflights await in the shadows, playing a game that the gods and titans don't even know they are a part of. I bid thee greetings, heirs and lesser worms, reincarnations, and flightmates. I am Patrick, known on the winds of change and the beaks of birds as PattyShakes_, and I am the game master for this story. This is session 0 of Scion, Dragon, the current Kickstarter of Onyx Path Publishing, which, along with its sister expansion Mythos, has been funded and is looking to complete as many stretch goals as possible. This is an awesome adventure brought to you by Vorpal Tales. You can find Vorpal Tales in lots of places on the internet. Of course, we are on Twitch, right here, right now. Consider giving us a follow or subscribe. Check out Twitter, where we tweet daily at Vorpal Tales. A Facebook and Instagram, where you get great pictures of all your cast and GMs outside the tabletop. A website, vorpaltales.com, where you can get all the latest news about everything we are doing and see our up-to-date calendars. A Patreon, where if you feel so inclined, you can toss a coin to us in order to make more, better, and Vorpal Talier content. You can join the other Snicker Snacks and Slithy Troves like Weapon M, Don Arnetto, and David. Finally, a Discord, where you can come hang out with us awesome humans and discuss all kinds of topics, or play video games with us. I'd like to thank Onyx Path Publishing for making an incredible world and setting to use to amaze and delight. Also to Astral Tabletop for being our virtual tabletop and platform for our players to roll their dice. Additionally to N8 Mid for the fantastic character sheet he created for this game. A thank you goes to Vinsfect, a wonderful YouTube channel that has amazing music to set your adventure to. Love goes to Love Your Rebellion, a nonprofit group that empowers marginalized groups through the arts. Please be sure to check out their website, loveyourrebellion.com. Additionally, Vorpal Tales has some new sponsors we'd love to tell you all about. First is QEmpire.com, a small company making original dice and products for your favorite RPGs and card games. Next is the Deck of Many, known for their various reference cards, but also for creating the Humblewood and Heckna campaign settings. Visit vorpaltales.com, click on our affiliate link, and anything you purchase, a portion of it will benefit the show. And now, dear viewers, meet our dragon heirs who look to stealth, stab, spy, infiltrate, interrogate, and manipulate the world and strengthen their flights. Please state your name, where people can find you on the internet, and the name of your character, nothing else. We'll go over that later.
Hi, I'm at Space Lord PJs. You can find me on the internet at Space Lord PJs. Tonight, I am playing Lorenzo Flores Gonzalez, also known as Sam Waite.
I am Eldridge Echoes Online. Tonight I will be playing Rashid Carter.
Hey, my name is Rachel. You can find me Stolen Fires pretty much everywhere, mostly Twitter and Instagram, and I am playing Indira.
And I am Dwayne at Made of Kimchi on the internet, and tonight I will be playing Kai Wing, also known as Michigan.
Hello, everybody. I am Steve. I'm new to Tuesdays. Hi. Be nice to me. You can find me on the internet at Voodoo Arcade, and tonight I will be playing Ambrosia.
And also playing tonight, hopefully will be joining us a little bit later, is Ever, who will be playing Jacob. All right. Thank you, Scions. Now, before we forget ourselves and escape for a little while until a realm of Cloak and Dagger, here in the world today, many people are struggling with very real matters and combating their own monsters. February is a month of health awareness. It is American Heart Month. February is not just for in-love hearts, but also healthy hearts. Make sure you're mitigating your risk of heart disease. Hand in hand is also National Self-Check Month. Selfcheck.org, self-check without the K, has a ton of resources available to you to check yourself for a variety of common chronic diseases and conditions. The very important Black Lives Matter movement is also still going on. It is especially important this month, as it is also Black History Month. We ask that you educate yourselves about icons and individuals who have shaped history, culture, politics that you may be ignorant to, and work with your fellow humans to better the world. As the amazing Thurgood Marshall, the first African-American Supreme Court justice, said, "Where you see wrong or inequality or injustice, speak out, because this is your country. This is your democracy. Make it, protect it, pass it on. Alrighty. And with that, we'll start getting into the wonderful Kickstarter that has been has been funded. You will see, if you are a backer, you will see this come into production and you will get awesome goodies to expand upon Scion. If Scion is a game about mortals, the divine and everything in between, then Scion Dragon is a game about the in-between spaces kept dark as the bright light of divinity shines elsewhere. It is a game about playing both sides against the middle as you desperately try to find a foothold in the world, all the while discovering who you are and what you want. Play as long-lost descendants of dragons called heirs. That's what all of our characters will be, who act as agents and operatives, enacting their ancestors' will as they delve into draconic history and memory. The world knows dragons primarily through the mythology told to them by the pantheons. Some of this is true, some is what dragons would call propaganda. An heir may descend from dragons, but she knows just as little about dragons as any other mortal. The truth about dragons is steeped in mystery, and they prefer it that way. Better to keep hidden than to risk getting wrapped up in the fate of the pantheons. Better to wait until the gods and titans wear one another down than to join the fight directly. Better to amass power for a decisive strike than to play your hand too soon. As the heir becomes more embroiled in her dragon's patron's schemes, she learns more of the truth, and she must choose if she wants to be a player in their game or forge her own path. Defining what is and what is not a dragon is difficult, as things such as legend, taxonomy, and real-world description all play a part in what gains the classification. Is a rather large snake a dragon? What about an oversized crocodile? How about dinosaurs? What do y'all think?
Dinosaurs. For the purpose of this game, dragons are defined as large reptilian creatures with a mythology surrounding them. So it sounds like C, all the above. Dragons are legendary creatures with so much gravitas, intrigue, and power that they inspire legends and mythologies on their own. From Fafnir hungrily devouring his horde, to the Hydra slain by Hercules, to Yamada no Orochi, from whose tail Susanoo pulled his grass-cutting sword. Dragons have played a part in and around mythology. Sometimes dragons come into being, not from a true source at all, but through popular culture or stories made up in more modern times. If it's a big reptile with a sufficiently cool story, it's a dragon. In Scion Dragon, we move these legendary creatures into the foreground, giving them an exalted place beside the divinity of the world, making them as powerful and potent as the gods and titans themselves. In doing so, dragons become capable of wearing divine mantles, being both gods and dragons, or dragons and titans, or even all three at once. So, with Scion Dragon, the themes are a bit different than base Scion. Base Scion being you are somehow either a direct descendant or a follower or believer or a kid or somehow related to the gods, and you get your power from being divine. And you're out in the open, you do great tales, and you can go on to be demigods and reshape the world as you see fit and do these awesome, inspiring acts of mightiness. Scion Dragon has a little bit of a different scheme. This is more revered, more timeless. It's an action game, to be sure, filled with legendary beings, grand struggles, and epic battles. And Scion Dragon can be all those things, but at the heart of it, and what we're going to focus on, is the fact that this is a spy game, chock full of clandestine operations, political intrigue, and shadowy conspiracies. Your goal is not so much to, as we might say from one of our other games, go loud, but more to stay in the shadows, use your amazing, powerful abilities to strike from a hidden place, gather just the right piece of intel,
that at just the right time will make just the right movement so that 30 years from now, your dragon can use what you did to further their goals. A primary theme of Scion Dragon is self-discovery. Heirs are the inheritors of a mythical world they barely understand, with little or no direction to guide them. Even if an heir discovers their true parentage, they still must choose whether to follow their commands. Accepting the power of a dragon comes with a great deal of responsibility. Learning to wield that responsibility is a large part of the game. Dragons choose their heirs with purpose. Heirs are proxies for the dragon and part of a larger Cold War operating primarily in the shadows. Dragons have learned the hard way to be cautious, using their minions to achieve a specific end secretly, rather than out in the open for the world to see. An heir may function as an assassin, a spy, or as a saboteur without ever fully understanding why. To be an heir in service to a dragon is to operate in the dark, committing crimes of various size with only a partial view of the board on which they play. As time goes on, that view expands and offers opportunities for rebellion or recommitment. Dragons are creatures of myth and legend, clouded in mystery. No one can find the truth regarding dragons easily with a simple internet search. Stories of their history are twisted and distorted, hidden from public view, and subject to doubt and scrutiny, which is precisely how the dragons prefer it. Part of playing an heir is separating facts from fiction, slowly learning the truth of their own ancestry. In so doing, the heir becomes more embroiled in the politics. To serve a dragon is to participate in an intricate game. As high-value pieces on the proverbial chessboard, heirs move across the playing field in service to their dragon, competing against other dragons, titans, and gods. From data theft, sabotage, counter-espionage, or outright assassinations, heirs are clandestine agents operating in a long and very cold war. Each time they undertake a mission or use their powers on behalf of a dragon, more of their former life slips away, though. This book that has been successfully Kickstarted, hooray, you should still go Kickstarter it though if you haven't yet, expands the mythic structure of the world and introduces dragons. This book is great because it's going to walk you through on how to make heirs, which is the term for our players' characters. As well as, if you want to, this book does allow for ramping up if you want to become, the next step is called a lesser worm, and then you can even evolve into a full dragon if you so wish to take it that way. So
you actually become the dragon?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Not necessarily, the particular dragon who you are following, but there are reincarnations, which I believe actually your character is, Stephen, where if they fully pursue and continue getting the inheritance, as well as unlocking memories and things like that, they can actually evolve into a full dragon and become part of the flight. So it allows for the same kind of scaling as base Scion does, where you can be a demigod and crush worlds with your fist, metaphorically speaking.
Bring me that dragon.
Even at level 0, though, you can still transform into one.
It's true. You can take on the aspect, and you can do some mighty things.
And throw cars.
Yes, and it gets kind of wild. So, you were all part of a flight. That is the replacement for pantheons in this game, as you do not so much worship a god as you are either a descendant or you have picked up on the memories of a dragon. And the dragons are loosely formed into groups called flights. Dragons created flights in direct response to gods creating pantheons. Before that time, they were singular and autonomous creatures. But as gods gained prevalence in the world, their fates changed the world around them, and that of the dragons as well. Some dragons were hunted and killed, others pulled into the very same pantheons. In response, they grouped together to take shelter. These groups are loosely based on the region of the world where the dragons were first located when the flights formed, and partially on ideological lines later on. Not every dragon and every flight is from the same cultural mythology, nor from the same world region. Sometimes dragons are just in the wrong place at the wrong time when trying to find someone to help them hide. With the formation of flights, many dragons slowly conformed in temperament to others in their groups. They grew comfortable with one another, and their goals slowly aligned over time. Dragons found common ground within their flights, not from what humans thought of them or what their mythology said about them, but instead by their common goals. There are 6 flights featuring dragon, although one of the stretch goals that was unlocked for dragon introduced a 7th flight, so huzzah for that. But our characters are based on the 6 base flights that were originally planned for the book. And those are Drax, Joka, Lindworms, Long, Naga, and Serpents. We'll go over a little bit more of these flights individually as our characters reveal about themselves and reveal which flight they're part of, as we have a representative from each flight here tonight. But yes, those are the 6 base ones. Also, to help you all, and as well as our viewers, we're going to go over some new terms that Scion Dragon introduces that either have a similar meaning to, base Scion or are new. So, first is bequeathal. I love that word, bequeathal. Just has a
solid word.
That's the moment when a dragon taps an heir into service. So the moment where you realize that you had some part of dragon history or related to dragons was your bequeathing. See, that's a great. I love any version of the word bequeath. It's just great. Brood. That is what you all are. It is a group of heirs. Dragon magic. You all have access to this. This is the physical magic dragons and their heirs harness through the use of spells. A flight is equivalent to a pantheon, as a group of dragons. An heir is what you all are. You have been chosen by the dragons.
So individually, we are heirs, and together as a group, we make up our brood.
Correct.
I'm learning. I've never played Scion before, so I'm going to be the slow one catching up.
Nice. I've played Scion once, so this is great. We'll learn together. Inheritance is a new term. It's a measure of draconic power and knowledge about dragonkind. The inheritance score determines the progression of an heir's power, the general outcome of rolls, how much of their heir's draconic forms they can access at will, and inheritance points, which she can use to activate her dragon magic. It is similar to legend or awareness from Mythos, where it is an additional fuel source for our heirs to activate their abilities. Certain magic, certain knacks require that they use their inheritance. Others will have them use their legend. So it's going to be an additional thing that they will need to track. A lesser worm is if we're talking Pokemon terms, would be the evolution, the next step of the heir. You turn into a lesser worm, where you just basically part dragon and you're just super awesome and you do amazing things. Unfortunately, you guys will not be getting there, but you should totally, that's another reason why you should back this Kickstarter, so you can do amazing, crazy things. You'll see the crazy things our characters can do, and you'll realize that they're at power level 1, and you'll go, there's 10 more levels after this? Holy crap. A spell is just something that you get from your dragon magic. Think of it as just a power that you have access to. And then a visitation is when the first time an heir meets their draconic ancestor. All right. So you're going to keep hearing my amazing voice as I go into a little bit of the draconic history, where dragons, where they have been, where they're going, and just some awesome lore for you to kind of understand the world that our heirs are walking into that has already been established, and what might define some of the relationships they have with one another, as they're all from separate flights, as well as why they might be doing some of the things they're assigned to do. Dragons existed on Earth long before the first cry echoed into the stratosphere, long before the skies cried and created the first oceans, and long before the first belches of volcanic gases created islands and mountains. They have lived in the world for as long as it has existed, though their tales are tumultuous and storied. They roamed the earth with ancient dragon-worshipping civilizations who eventually made way for humanity. They watched as gods rose from humanity's faith and remember all too well when those gods formed pantheons and rewrote history to match. These giant, ancient creatures have always existed, and they remember a multitude of histories, all singularly true and none quite right. They think in the long term, enacting centuries-old goals through their heirs. Dragons did not start out in a unified manner, but have learned to work together through strife. Some are dangerous creatures, but others are scholars, lovers, politicians. All are planners, which they have learned to plan over the long term through necessity. For they all but lost the war with the pantheons, one they didn't ask for, but one they plan to win in the future. Draconic history is neither linear nor all-encompassing. It spirals through time, folding in upon itself when necessary, and mixes the truth, as remembered, with realities created by fate. Before the universe understood divinity, there were dragons, immortal beings who existed outside of the concepts of pantheons or fate. Ask any dragon, and she will tell you she was born into the world as it was first forming. They all tell the same story, even the ones who didn't come along until after. They remember the beginning and all that came after, so it is truth. Born unto the cosmos, the new earth took its first desperate gasps, and with every breath bore a new dragon into existence. The call to light from the void screamed louder than all else in the dark stretch of eternity for the young wormlings. So it was that dragons inhabited the world long before fin took to water, claw to land, and wing to sky. Dragons spent short millennia amongst only themselves before the world changed around them, and changed them as it did. In those early days, dragons explored their surroundings, uncovering secrets buried deep beneath mountains, plumbing the deepest depths of the oceans, and hearing the soft music of breezes through ancient foliage. Before they knew it, they were no longer alone. The world changed and grew at a rapid pace compared to the dragon's immortal lifespans. Tiny, microscopic organisms gave way to larger and larger life in the blink of a scaled eye. Dragons marveled at the rapidity of change, the miracle of new growth, and the brevity of mortal life. These beings were unique and unlike anything that came before them. Their form was strange to the dragons. 2 arms, 2 legs, and no scales or fangs. The advent of humanity brought with it a course of something dragons still do not fully understand to this day. Humans had imagination, belief in the unseen, and told stories of their gods. They saw divinity within themselves, and their gods looked and acted as they did. Dragons cannot say if gods came before humanity or vice versa, as that part of history is probably the most muddled to their minds. With humanity came the concept of fate, and with fate came the trappings of divinity, and with those trappings came the ability to bend truth and reality to fit mythology. In the early days, dragons accepted gods and their people, as they accepted all changes to the earth. Dragons understood little of the gods' abilities, for reality was never so frozen there could be a single truth, but they enjoyed the newness of the gods and lived beside them in peace. It is this point in history that is most debated. Each dragon has a different version of the story, and each pantheon has one completely contrary. Dragons were fascinated with humanity and their gods. They welcomed them, gave them space to roam, for the world was a big place. Most were indifferent to humans, allowing the gods their domain over humans' lives, but a few took a keen interest in the fleshy creatures. These dragons wanted to be as the gods. They mingled with humanity, sometimes using magic to take their forms, as they tried to understand them. They reveled in the humans' creations, and some bred with the humans, creating a new form of life born into two worlds, neither draconic nor human. Some dragons were completely impartial to the people, acting in ways that led to destruction and death. Some were only interested in humans as animals to hunt, delighting in their crafty ways, but ultimately devouring them all the same. This angered the humans, and some gods, but the dragons ignored this outcry. The cycle of life, death, and the mutability of time was all part of coexistence, and there was little point lamenting over a creature who died now, but still existed in the past. As human culture grew, so did their gods. They went from a few settlements worshipping one or two gods to civilizations worshipping several. The gods formed pantheons, and in doing so, used fate to rewrite their own histories. Dragons remember this part well, for they can remember branching realities and truths as gods came together and described how they created the world. A world that had already been existing for some time. A world that dragons had seen grow without them. And suddenly they too remember those gods who created it. The dragons were far too different to be truly changed by the gods' actions. Rather, most dragons understood the world now had two truths. One truth, which had always been, and one created by the gods. They lived accepting both realities as truth, because the ancient creatures always understood the truth behind multiplicity. The dragons, who spent most of the time with gods, got caught up in their fates. These dragons became gods, who were also dragons, but could not explain why it was so. The worst thing gods ever did to dragons wasn't hunt them down and kill them, but embroil them in the gods' reality so tightly that they started to question their own memories. Fafnir's form was confined to the word dwarf, which then transformed into a dragon. Fafnir keenly remembers a time before gods rewrote history, but also understands he was born into the world as a dwarf. Both realities are equally as true to him. With pantheons came politics, and with politics came war. Unsatisfied with dominion over humanity, the gods slapped labels on one another from primordial to titan, casting aspersions as to each one's abilities to shepherd humanity. And dragons? Well, if they weren't wholly for the growth and prosperity of humanity, they were just as bad as titans. This fundamental shift in the world's realities, while accepted by dragons, did not go unnoticed. The wisest of the ancient ones were always wary of the gods, for they were too unlike them to be trustworthy. They knew the moment the gods arrived in the world, a game had started. This game would wind through mortal history, steeped in tragedy and loss, dancing in violence and singing through screams. It was a game that would cost the dragons much, but it was one they planned to win. If all myths are true, and gods created the world in 100 different ways, then dragons will end the world in 100 different acts of vengeance. It wasn't enough for the mythology of the pantheons to rewrite dragons' place in the world. They also put humanity above all else, causing those dragons who wanted nothing more than to simply exist to become enemies. Dragons are large and dangerous, and their acts rarely consider human life. So, the gods rallied their followers and children against them to hunt them to extinction. They made a few distinctions, but they barely mattered. Gods only accepted dragons who accepted his role as a god within their pantheon. All else were titans and beasts to hunt and kill. The gods and their followers waged bloody war against dragons to great efficiency. Stuck as they were in this new reality, shaped by the pantheons, the immortality was no longer guaranteed. They lived only within the memory of other dragons, and could hope at reincarnation rather than it being given. Some fought against the onslaught, only bringing more ire. Others tried to hide. But even those who were gods could see that being a dragon would eventually end in death, and were forced to either abdicate the pantheon or the draconic mantle. In the world of Scion, all myths are true. Certain primordials, gods, and dragons all existed at the beginning of the world at the same time. Only dragons existed at the beginning of the world, and everyone else came after. Dragons took on mantles of gods and joined pantheons, but also those gods and titans who are dragons were always gods and titans. These are just accepted truths. So, basically, in a brilliant stroke, incorporating dragons could be seen, especially because dragons are so established in a lot of mythology in the real world, that, you know, the idea of dragons existing before time could break a lot of things. Which is why, in the world of Scion, all truths of creation are simultaneously accepted, as we just went over, that all truths can exist simultaneously. So, that's just, if you're having a little bit of difficulty wrapping your head around it, don't worry, it's totally okay. There's a lot of history sections I cut out for, you know, brevity here, but just know that it is a difficult timeline to follow. But
all that lore is in the book, which is
yes,
dope to get to read through. So
yes,
there's a ton more to get to read through and know about the world.
Oh yes, I just pulled some key excerpts from this chapter, but this chapter is like 50 pages long, so totally check it out because there's a lot of cool history in there. But this is just so you can kind of get the general idea of why dragons hate the gods and titans so much, and you know, why the creation of heirs and reincarnations are so needed.
They hate the gods because they are the gods, but they aren't the gods because the gods came after them, but they were also the gods at the beginning. Got it.
Yes.
Charlie Day, Pepe Sylvia gif.
The idea being that, according to dragons, everything was fine and dandy until the evolution of humans, and then them having the imagination to invent gods, and those gods then being like, well, we actually created everything. And that twisted up fate and timelines, and the dragons are like, everything was going so smooth until you screwed the pooch like that. So, that's what happened before. What about dragons today? Today, dragons act in secret, laying low and using a variety of intermediaries and pass-through entities to enact goals. The gods may have scrubbed dragons from humanity's collective consciousness, giving them new roles or killing them off, but dragons have not forgotten everything that has happened. Their goals are not new, and they have been working on them since the gods first arrived and started meddling with reality. In order to survive, a dragon keeps secrets. Even their heirs never know the full truth of their plans. A single truth may lay folded in 100 lies given to the dragon's followers to decode and enact to prove they are worthy of the dragon's patronage. Birthed in a millennia of plotting, waiting, and scheming, completing a dragon's goals is never straightforward. Any person or creature who follows a dragon's designs is a pawn on an exceptionally large chessboard, and likely never knows more than was required of them, save perhaps heirs, who dragons see not as pawns, but as knights who protect their carefully constructed goals. Those who seek a greater part to play in their dragon schemes must prove themselves repeatedly, and if they're lucky, they will gain insight into a greater piece of the puzzle, and then even then only perhaps they are shown a half-truth. Dragons understand both truth and lies as veracity, after all. A loyal heir follows her dragon ancestor's orders without question. If her dragon tells her to kill, she kills. If he tells her to steal, she steals. This sort of unquestioning loyalty is likely to gain an heir a comfortable, if not unspectacular, life. In contrast, a smart heir finds the truth behind the orders given to him by his ancestor. He sifts through conflicting accounts and cryptic messages to understand what his dragon genuinely wants, and performs that deed instead. The heirs who do this rise to true greatness, or are eaten by their dragons. Great reward comes with great risk, after all. Many of the stories and legends people know about dragons come not from dragons themselves, but instead from the pantheons. Because of this, most of their stories are wrong, often seriously so. However, one important feature of many stories about dragons is that they are creatures given to avarice, and these stories are entirely correct. Most dragons, or at least most dragons who are not hiding in an immediate fear of their lives, have collections that they refer to as their hoard. Dragons hope that part of the process of regaining their place in the world will be the ability to return to collecting and tending their hoards, rather than having to constantly struggle to avoid notice or battle deadly threats. While stories about dragon hoards emphasize them collecting vast piles of gold and jewels, the reality is far more complex. Most dragons possess hoards, but what any individual dragon hoards is a deeply personal and often highly idiosyncratic choice. Wealth is exceedingly common and obviously quite useful. However, even this can take many forms, from piles of gold bars and bags of gemstones to digital wallets filled with cryptocurrency. In addition, wealth is far from the only option. Some dragons hoard knowledge, often in the form of books. Others collect various divine or semi-divine relics. And the range of options for hoards also includes land, weapons, and in some cases, humans, particularly as retainers, servants, and allies. However, some dragons prefer secrets or favors. In the modern age, those who hoard secrets or favors have done especially well. As a result, this practice has spread amongst most flights. Increasingly, dragons let gods, titans, scions, and humans who possess wealth, power, or simply uncommon amounts of knowledge about the supernatural know that they can offer useful services for a price. Most dragons who trade in secrets use the same system. If you want to learn one of the dragon's secrets, you must offer to share one of at least equal value that the dragon does not already know. Naturally, the only one who can determine whether secrets have an equivalent value is the dragon. But most dragons are ruthlessly fair in their evaluations, and those that aren't soon find their reputation drives prospective clients to seek out someone else. As a result, most dragons who deal in secrets endeavor to keep their clients at least minimally satisfied, because doing so means that they can obtain more clients and thus obtain a steady stream of new and better secrets. The trade in favors is more complex and can become quite convoluted. In its simplest form, the dragon offers to do something for someone else in return for that individual owing the dragon a favor that she can call in later. Often the dragon making the deal specifies the favor in advance, and if she doesn't, she usually provides a general outline of the magnitude of what she'll ask in return. In addition to the fact that some dragons who deal in favors possess the ability to bind others to keep their oaths, everyone with sense knows that getting on the bad side of a dragon is a terrible idea. Not only does that individual risk the dragon's wrath, but some other dragons refuse to deal with them, and may also attempt to capture the Oathbreaker and hand them over to the dragon who is owed the favor. The exchange of favors can become even more complicated because many dragons use favors as currency. If two or more dragons are owed favors that they each consider to be of equivalent value, then they sometimes exchange them. The result is someone who asked a favor of a dragon, finding that they now owe this favor to a dragon they have never met and know nothing about. Some individuals who deal with dragons have begun insisting that the dragon cannot trade their favors.
No, you can't do that. No. Against the rules.
A dragon who collects rare jewels may have little intrinsic interest in secrets or favors, but is willing to deal with them as means to acquire additional rare jewels. All right. When the Titanomachy started, dragons learned an important lesson. The gods cared not if they wanted to be involved. The price of complacency was to be cast in the drama the pantheons were playing out. When the flights formed, the dragons took measures to protect themselves. They also decided they couldn't just stay out of things. They would be hunted regardless of their involvement, and gods would retell their histories without their approval. The flights made plans not only for survival, but for revenge, restitution, and to reclaim their rightful place as rulers of the world. They can't beat fate outright, even if they can skirt its effects and retain their memories of a past before fate's touch. So they plot against the pantheons and hope to use their fate and turn against them. They work both ends, helping a god here or a titan there to stoke the fires of a cold war, and hope the two will burn each other out, and dragons can just simply pick up the pieces. They aren't above tipping the scales one direction or another if it suits their needs, but pantheons at war with one another and their titans are pantheons who are too busy to notice a dragon meddling in deeper affairs. Heirs, all of you, are a dragon's greatest asset on Earth. They are mortal, born of the mortal world, but have access to a dragon's magic and power. They dance in the web of mysteries woven by their dragon ancestor and draconic enemies, bobbing, weaving, and dodging through schemes in order to grab more power for themselves or foil whatever plans they can. There are two types of heirs, agents and reincarnated. Both are as equally as important to one another, but take two different roads to come into their powers. Most of you are agents. Agents are heirs chosen and activated by a living dragon. An agent always has a draconic lineage, even if he is completely unaware of it, and even if the dragon who activates him is not his direct ancestor. The dragon activates her heir by passing memories to the agent, giving him flashes of her life. Through exploring the memories, the agent gathers information on the dragon and receives cryptic orders he must follow in order to learn more about himself. The path of an agent is one of light and dark, uncovering memories while being plunged deeper into a dragon's control. Reincarnated heirs, which I believe is only Steven's character, are literally the reincarnation of a dead dragon. She too has a tie to a draconic lineage, which the dead dragon's memories use to latch onto her. Unlike agents, a reincarnated heir has no living dragon to guide her steps. She must unlock the dragon's memories herself. With each memory the reincarnated unlocks, she unveils a game she has been playing for centuries. Every time she remembers, she understands more of her place in the world as a dragon and realizes how muddy the truth of her position is. The path of the reincarnated is one of impossible gray. Heirs who risk losing their identity to a dragon's plots or overcoming their ancestor and taking power for themselves. Due to an heir's importance, it may feel as if she must agree with her dragon's plans and play along with whatever centuries-old game he is playing. This is far from true. In fact, many heirs vehemently disagree with their dragon's end goal or specific orders. Heirs learn quickly to sift through missions, twisting goals and sidestepping plots in an attempt to balance their humanity with their new draconic nature. So it's important to know that just because you're the heir of a dragon, you might like a lot of what they do, you don't have to always agree with your dragon.
You know what else is important, Patty?
What's that?
Thanking Lashote for the Prime sub. We appreciate
Hell
you.
yeah, that's important.
Thank you so much.
That 18-month streak. All right. Just two more topics here, and then we'll get into your characters and your flights. And then you can stop hearing my voice finally.
I don't want
Bequeathal. Heirs refer to the process of learning about their draconic heritage as bequeathal. They call it this because it comes in flashes of memories and visions, and with these visions comes the first taste of draconic magic and the power to become a dragon. Naturally, there's a difference between agent bequeathals and reincarnate bequeathals. With the agents, their dragon guide gives them, while the reincarnated has no control over when these visions or memories will come about. They might just be doing something as simple as, walking through a forest or climbing a mountain when they are bequeathed upon. Dragons give their heirs missions, sometimes through visions and memories, and sometimes through more mundane means, such as sending an agent or a message through a dead drop. Some orders are specific. Go to the east side, kill Freya's Scion, who is hunting heirs. These orders are clear, and a dragon is unhappy if his heir doesn't follow them explicitly. Other orders leave room for the individual agent to use their creativity. Deal with Freya's Scion hunting down heirs. In this case, dragons expect their heirs to find the best possible solution to the problem, one that even the dragon may not have thought of. No matter the order, specific or vague, every heir takes the utmost care in their missions, lest they fall prey to unseen dangers. Dragons trust their heirs to carry out the mission, giving them leeway to decide how to best achieve the end goal. The heir might not fully understand why she has these particular orders, and she dare not ask the dragon himself, and in the case of reincarnated heirs, he just can't. And so uses her time performing the mission to gather as much secondary information as she can. Broods are groups of heirs who come together for whatever reason. Broods form for various reasons, such as shared goals or shared flights, and are often bonds lasting a lifetime. Heirs often join one another for one-off missions or because their handlers pair them together, but this is different from forming a brood. Broods are deep connections between heirs who trust one another implicitly. These bonds can form instantly or over many shared missions. However they form, a brood bond lasts for life, and to betray a brood mate is the worst act an heir can perform. Broods often form as heirs meet and they share common goals or interests. Heirs rarely trust anyone other than their mortal family, and sometimes their dragon ancestor. So gaining the trust of other heirs is a game of give and take. When first meeting, they often adopt carefully crafted personas, only dropping their guard when they have proven themselves to one another. Just like any other kind of relationship, broods take time and energy to form and maintain. It is easy for heirs to fall in with one another, though, as these are the only people in their lives who understand what else they're going through. Heirs and a brood trust one another completely, but that doesn't mean they share everything all the time. Heirs expect one another to keep some secrets. After all, it comes naturally to each of them. Major secrets can cause problems, but broodmates are quick to forgive one another white lies and small missions made to protect one another. Okay, so
Patty, I have a quick question on that.
Give me all your questions.
So would our dragon patron disagree with our brood?
It is possible, yes. Just like an heir would not always agree with their patron, especially because you are all of a different flight.
Right.
It's going to be very often that your brood members are going to disagree, sometimes extremely, with what your patron wants, or what even your whole flight wants.
I mean, more specifically, like our patron not liking that we're with different flight heirs.
That necessarily wouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Dragons understand, even though they have formed these different flights, they don't usually agree all the time. They're not going to begrudge an heir that falls in with someone from a different flight.
Okay.
Yeah. So for those who have a specific dragon patron, they're not going to be immediately mad at you for kind of forming this task force of each flight. You still have your patron's favor if you have it. Does anyone else have anything they thought of while I was going over the history of dragons? Kind of the more recent stuff that's going on present time, as well as any of the new terms I used or anything like that?
No.
This, of course, isn't your only time to ask questions. I'm sure there'll be a ton as we go along.
There will be no follow-up
We
questions.
will have 5 seconds to answer all your questions.
Yeah, this is your one time. Get it all out now.
Is this my class?
But yes, so as Dwayne brought up, there are different flights, and a lot of the time, they disagree even on just kind of base ideas such as how do we view humans and what's the correct way to get back at the titans and gods.
You said food wrong.
Exactly. So we're going to let our players give a little bit more information about each flight. So we will start with the Joka flight. So Stephen, as the player playing for the Joka flight, would you like to tell us all about them, some of their history, how they approach things, and some of their powers? I think. I forget what I put in the blurb.
So I have I have two questions.
Okay. That's one more than you're allowed, but okay.
All right, fair enough. Then I'll do a comma as opposed to a period. Is it Joka or Yoka?
I've been saying Joka.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
But it's entirely possible I'm saying that wrong.
I
So
wasn't sure if anyone in this group has a better understanding.
What language is it?
I believe. Ooh.
the Yoka are from originally from all over Africa.
It's like North African, I believe, because I believe there's some like Egyptian.
I don't know anything about African languages. I'm sorry.
I don't either.
If anyone in the chat wants to correct me, please go for it. Yes, but until then, I will be saying Joka.
Okay. So there's a lot of words in here I'm not going to pronounce correctly, and I apologize for that. But
That's okay. So we'll preface everyone's blurbs about their flights. There will be a lot of words that some of us will not be able to pronounce, but we're going to try our darndest.
But I do love the fact that this game is so diverse in its background and history and what the dragons do. Because like when I first was told, like at first I said like I really want to play dragon. This sounds awesome. And then I kind of got and I was like, so we're just all going to play like a dragon. And then I saw what was available, and I was like, "Oh, these are radically different and really cool." Like, okay, all right. So, the Joka. You want me to read the blurb you sent, right?
Yes, please.
Okay,
if you would.
All right. So, about us. Before the Najir were a pantheon, a mute, and Apophis. Were seers and lovers. The gods changed the world around them, and in changing, Amut and Apophis forgot their love for one another, though the memory of such perished. Persisted. It's been a long day.
I can help you with that one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stargate. It's Apophis.
Apophis. Oh, Apophis.
Shout outs to Stargate.
Yeah.
Boo, Stargate. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. Oh, the opinions of Steve are not.
Well, okay, so we're going to derail our Scion Dragon game to have a debate here.
The views of Vorpal Tales are not reflected by anything Steve says.
Ever. All right. The loss of their love sent ripples amongst other dragons, reminding them of all the gods had taken from them when they changed the world. They began to yearn so deeply for the time that came before. They sought for anything to fill that void. In the first few days, Reyna called all those who remembered and yearned as much as she did to her lair and held a great feast. She offered not food with which to gorge, but all the esoteric things in the world that would bring power in the hope the dragons would recover their past. Everyone who attended ate their fill of her offerings, finding only more desire and ambition, and a deeper yearning for what they had lost. Reyna fed them all that day, and put out a call to those who would seek power and a return to draconic domination. Now, all those who feel this hunger are called Joka. All dragons all over the world hunger, but none like those in the Joka flight. It isn't a physical hunger for food, so much as a metaphysical hunger for more power, and an existential desire for what they have lost. They may consume physical objects, but they just as much consume knowledge, power, and lives in the hopes of regaining a modicum of their carefree lives slipping through time. The Joka view the world in simplistic terms. There are predators and there are prey. And if you want to remain a predator, you must stay sharp. Consumption, predation, and ambition are all words that bring power. Not all Joka are so militant about their hungers, but those who aren't find that the game doesn't care what they want. Some Joka are simply selfish, drinking deep of a major river without a care about how that would affect those who live on it. Others channel their appetites to be beneficial, consuming hazardous materials or corpses to prevent the spread of disease. Some try for benevolence. Now the Joka collaborate to help one another achieve greater power, and accept any who can prove their worth and their unbridled ambition. Many Joka readily form pacts and agreements with others, be they Scions, gods, titans, or even just local humans. If it can bring them power or sate their hunger, they have no qualms in making a deal. The Joka gain power from consumption. While nothing they eat fills the emptiness of a life lost, they have learned to turn that hunger into rage, and their consumption fuels that rage into all their magics. But Joka must understand when to indulge and when to fast. Gaining too much power all at once brings unwanted attention and endangers the whole flight. The Joka are a disparate group of dragons originally from all over Africa. These dragons are large, often described as having 2 legs, no wings, or else 4 legs and wings, and their hunger. They always hunger. The dragons of Africa are renowned in myth for their near gluttonous nature. The mythology of the continent concerns itself with dragons who consume nearly impossible things, from all the waters of the Niger River, the hearts, and thus the souls as well, of the unjust dead, to order itself. Joka are primarily pragmatic to a fault. They constantly seek a way to sate their hunger and care about little else other than that and power. They side with anyone who can promise them power and are often viewed as mercenaries for it. Those who work with the Joka long term ensure that they pay in whatever counts as sustenance, or else their contract is bound to come up short. Few alive can say that they have ever cheated a Joka out of a promised prize. The Joka's flight. The Joka flight's pragmatism makes them more prone to vague and cryptic truths than misinformation and lies. The impression and stories heirs gleaned from their memories and dreams come hidden in riddles, flashes, and base instincts. Whatever the Joka preferred to consume weaves itself through the memory, always present.
Thank you. You don't have to. That's copy paste. Ignore the last little bits right there. But
Gotcha.
I did look up. Thanks to Nick Millie Abdu in chat for saying Joka was a Swahili word, which allowed me to look up a pronunciation guide, which it is Joka.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Well, according to the pronunciation guide I found on a quick Google search, but
Right.
I'm gonna go off that.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
yes,
Google
Joka.
can't lie. That's what I heard.
That's true. You know, I've heard the top result is always the truth, no matter
Right.
what. So yes, thank you, Stephen, for your words and letting us know all about the Joka flight. Next, we'll hear from Tyler and the Drac flight.
I don't wanna.
You stole what I was gonna do.
I know, that's why I did it. Suck it.
Damn you.
Strength comes from change. Change through chaos. And only through chaos is anything possible. It is through this crucible and cutting out weakness that makes one strong enough to claim your destiny and birthright as the guardian of this world. So it is with Drac. During a period of upheaval when the primordial salt and sweet seas of creation, Tiamat and Absa united as one, these forces begat creatures rivaling even the stars in number, who then begat their own progeny, who rose up against their progenitors in a struggle for supremacy over the cosmos. In the ensuing chaos, Tiamat shed her skin and took her true form, the first Drac, the glistening one. She was also the first of all dragonkind, a dragon worthy of deep reverent awe. Other flights might argue against Tiamat as the mother of all dragons, but it doesn't matter, they're wrong. They have always known, and will believe, until the day they all die, that Tiamat is the first Drac. It is only a matter of time until the others fall in line and realize this simple truth as well. In Tiamat's rage and anger, along with her desire to bring balance, she birthed 11 monsters. They all fought alongside the Glistening One, against her wayward children, the Anunnaki. This defiant act against a pantheon now bent on destroying Tiamat and her children would become the first true flight. How are we pronouncing Joka again?
Joke.
That way, Joka.
Yes.
Though the Joka and Naga may try to claim such distinction, everyone knows it was the Drak who first rallied against the pantheons. Don't you forget it, Steve.
Nope.
At the end of
Lies
the
and
conflict,
slander.
the traitorous Enki slew Abzu and Marduk slew Tiamat, who gloated his victory over the dragoness before dismembering her body, casting her remains across the land, taking her youngest born, Mashusu, as a hostage, and sending those who still lived into hiding all across the globe. Believing the Drak were no longer a concern to him, Marduk largely forgot all about them, which suited the still nascent flight recovering from near destruction. If you don't think a bunch of dragons had just watched you murder their mother or anything to worry about, then who are we to correct you? It certainly isn't their fault if some Scions end up at the bottom of the Marianas Trench in a freak storm as payback. Many view the Drak as being too disparate for their own good. What good is chaos in the long term? Their conflicting desires, their penchant for chaos, and obvious lack of self-preservation will eventually lead to tearing themselves up from the inside. The belief that the Drak are a fractious and self-destructive bunch is one they foster, and it works to their advantage. Gods underestimate the Drak's ability to plot on the long term and easily believe their members are fickle and disloyal, such as the way of chaos and self-destruction. So what drives the Drak? Other flights attest they seek revenge for Tiamat and all the other dead dragons, but that's not the whole of it. The Drak have believed since the days of Tiamat they are a necessary force. You gain nothing through stagnation. Change is the core of life, and it is only through the disruption of order that change can transpire. Revenge may drive the vehicle for change for the Drak, but they all know that their chaos will bring about lasting change. The first Drak hail from the Middle East, with their roots coming from deep within Mesopotamian and Sumerian civilizations of yore. The core members of the flight were born from Tiamat, the mother of dragons, and self-proclaimed first among dragons, and as such, most follow her in appearance, if not also temperament. The rest come from across the world, the cast-offs, the mistreated, the vengeful. The archetypal depiction of dragons is derived primarily from the Drak: 4 legs, long body and tail, with or without wings. But not all Drak look like this, even if it is the most associated appearance. The Drak is the most reclusive flight. Tiamat's death has led them to near paranoid levels of seclusion, and they fear the Anunnaki as much as they hate them. While it's been many years since an Anunnaki Scion has raised a Drak lair, they believe their war with the Pantheon is too overt to risk anything other than complete secrecy. The Drak have an innate ability to blend in with their surroundings, which makes their seclusion only natural. Drak hide in all manner of dark corners, hidden areas, or caverns. While some stories have them sleeping in dark caverns or under crushing waves for centuries on end, the truth is less dramatic. The Drak prefer to be nomads, moving from hiding place to hiding place, keeping their location unpredictable and untraceable. No one can catch you, if they never know where you are, or where you're gonna be. Due to constant movement, their hordes are unusually small for dragons. What they can't take with them, they might discard or bury to come back for later. Sometimes the dragon dumps a portion of their horde on an unsuspecting heir, telling her to guard it with her life, or else. I am the Scion of Tiamat, the Glistening One. While most flights might balk at placing one of their number above all, the Drak have no qualms raising Tiamat above all others as the mother of all dragons. She rose from the chaotic and primeval salt seas, and along with Abzu of the Sweet Waters, created several gods from their commingling. Lamu and Lahamu, who begat Anshar, and Kishar, who begot Anu and Ki. From Tiamat and Abzu did all the Anunnaki descend, and they formed the foundation of the cosmos. All was order and balance. That is, until Abzu believed his children were conspiring against him, and he rose up to strike them down. Even with assurances from the duplicitous Mumu, who by all accounts is a spirit of pure chaos who rivaled Tiamat, tricked Abzu into a false sense of security and aided in his capture. This betrayal sent Mom into a rage, whereupon she turned into a dragon and birthed 11 monsters. Basmu and Mushusu, the only 2 to survive as dragons, to serve as her champions. The eventual death of Abzu at the hands of her grandchildren drove Tiamat into a madness, and she sought to drown the world and rebuild it, even if it meant killing her own children and all of creation to achieve this goal. When faced with an enraged draconic embodiment of the chaotic primordial seas, the burgeoning Anunnaki faced a terrible dilemma. Who was going to take on the Mother of Dragons? In the end, it didn't matter who did the deed, so long as she stopped rampaging across creation against the betrayal of Abzu. So Marduk, with the blessing of Anu, took up a net, a club, and an invincible spear to bring down the glistening one. Gotta get those invincible spears, y'all. Slicing her in half with a single blow. The sheer size of her ribs formed the heavens and the earth. As she lay dying, her tears for Abzu and all her slain children became the source of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Lastly, her tail became a stream of stars in the sky, which formed the Milky Way. Obviously. Tiamat's heirs carry vivid memories of the Glistening One. Her dark hair piled atop her head like a crown, eyes as bright as stars, and a noble bearing that belies a mournful sorrow. All of those who have awoke to her memories have a deep understanding of what it means to lose everything, but still fight to maintain what remains. She is not yet reincarnated, and she chooses heirs who would be most sympathetic to her. Parents torn away from their children, social workers protecting those unable to protect themselves, and survivors of unjust wars are just a sampling of those who have been blessed by Tiamat's memories. The callings for Tiamat are Ruler, Primeval, and Watcher. The magics of Tiamat are Elemental Manipulation, Fire, Flight, Fear, and Understanding. And the asset skills are Subterfuge and Survival. And for those curious, the remembrances, which is balance for regular Scions, are Chaos versus Order, or Cipher versus Defection.
Yes, Remembrance. We're not going to be playing too much on that system just because it's just a short couple of episodes we're going to do here for the Kickstarter. But for a longer game of Scion Dragon, you would use Remembrances to determine whether or not your heir is embracing the draconic side of them and fulfilling missions and really being like, you know what, yes, in Tyler's case, Tiamat is awesome. I'm going to just do whatever Tiamat says. Or if you're rebelling against that and clinging on to your humanity and, looking for a way to use your powers more for your own benefit as opposed
Lame.
to Agreed. If I'm playing Scion Dragon, I'm being as dragonly as possible. But for those who want a little bit of change of pace, maybe from the other players they're playing with, or a better challenge, I should say, being more human is an option, which is good. Role-playing games are all about as many options as possible. So there's a system in place for you to be able to kind of track that. All right, perfect. So that's 2 of our flights down, 4 more to go. Who shall we hear from next? I'm thinking we should hear from the Serpents and Sean.
Oh boy.
He's just mad I stole his line.
I don't want to read.
Sounds good the second time around.
I know. The serpents have flowed through the world since it was first breathed into existence, their form echoing throughout all nature. The gnarled roots of trees, the creeping flashes of lightning, the slithering courses of rivers. The world is not yours, it's theirs. It bears their DNA. Beneath every warm rock is a serpent ready to lash out when disturbed. When the gods arrived in the world, many serpents found easy peace with them. Their stories were always simple ones, woven of the fabric of the world, and the serpents remained mostly unchanged as they accepted their new roles, divine or otherwise. These dragons didn't suffer at the hands of the gods, being hunted for sport or greed. Instead, they came to love humanity, and the gods entreated them to shower humanity with love and affection. But as humanity grew, so did their hubris. They took more from the land than they needed, and they eroded the natural beauty of the world. The gods, only interested in worship, cared not what the humans did to Earth as long as they performed the right rituals and gave proper homage. The serpents tried to correct the humans, teach them the proper ways to care for the world, but the gods reacted poorly. Some dragons were punishing people for their hubris, and the gods felt they should be the only ones to punish humans. Feeling that humanity had betrayed them and the gods were encouraging it, they chose to fade into the background rather than go to war with the gods. They would clean up the world by teaching humanity the right ways and kill anybody who disobeyed. The serpents created Zol, a terra incognita for the newly formed alliance to meet and plan their defense of the planet. In Zol, they plan for defenses and keep themselves separate from humanity, else they fall prey to their love of the small creatures. But they cannot act fully by staying only in Zol. They are creatures of the land, and they must be in the world if they wish to enact change in it. Zol is also a disaster shelter, so the serpents know if they cannot change humanity, the world will become uninhabitable, and Zol is there as a backup in case they fail. The serpents are the least trusting of all flights, with the twin threats of ecological collapse and the titanomancy, wow, that's an awesome word, impacting their continued existence.
Did you say Titanmancy?
Titanomancy.
Rad.
Wait, it's
Titanomachy.
Titanomachy is gotta be the most fucking awesome word I've heard in a really long
Patty can
time.
keep bequeath. I'll take Titanomachy.
Titanomachi. Whoever came up with that, fucking kudos, man. Like, you're the best. I want to buy you a drink. Okay, so with the twin threats of ecological collapse and the titanomancy impacting their continued existence, who can blame them? The stress of both have taken their toll, though. Although they have a plan to leave it all behind if things get bad enough, they'd rather keep their home in the way it is, and they'll fight anyone who threatens that, gods, titans, or even the humans they love. Their hypervigilance has kept them safe from many threats, at the expense of their ability to build and maintain friendships and alliances. This often has an infectious effect on their agents, with some heirs displaying symptoms of PTSD becoming increasingly jumpy as they take on more serpentine features. Nevertheless, it's impossible to understate the serpent's love of the world and the humans in it. They spend much of their lives crawling through the underbrush, feeling the grass, tickling their belly scales. Where many groups of immortals spend their time in search of something they don't have, the serpents want to hold on to what they already have. Though increasingly militant, they still only want what's best for humanity, and a healthy planet can sustain them all for eons to come. The serpents carry few secrets. Other than Zol's location or individual layers, most of their activities performed for the sake of humanity. Why wouldn't they want people to know their true tales? Though many serpents predate humanity, they love it desperately. They gladly accepted whatever roles gods gave them, making many of their strongest memories those roles. When serpent heirs dream of their dragon, they dream of a world before machines, a world that could be again. Thick jungles that cover the mountains, rivers flowing freely, cutting ridges through the earth, washing valleys with fertile soil. They dream of people tending to the land, giving as much as they take, sweet mimicking the rivers that mimic the serpents. These humans work with the land, their blood mingling with the soil, making both the world and the humans stronger, better. Their willingness to shed their own blood in the fields of proof of their worthiness.
Perfect. Thank you, Sean. So yes, we have the serpent flight, which if you're getting a strong eco-terrorist vibe from...
No. I think you're really reading that one.
You were listening correctly.
I think you're reading that one differently.
Said the serpent.
They're not eco-terrorists. They are eco-conservationists militantly.
So that sounds like eco-terrorists with a lot more words.
See, you would think that's what it is, but it's not. And I have various pamphlets.
They just believe in taking radical direct action to protect the environment.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Through pamphlets.
The pamphlets that may or may not explode. No one's quite sure.
I'm assuming these pamphlets are also recycled.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. 3 down, 3 to go. Who should we hear from next? I'm thinking the Naga. and Rachel.
Hey. When the mountains pulled themselves from the oceans and the lakes pooled in vast chasms, when the world took its first breaths of creation and winds learned to shudder through trees, these concepts entranced dragons. They marveled at them, but such ephemeral things did not last long enough for proper scrutiny. Some dragons created a place outside the world in which to explore and understand these concepts. A terra incognita called the Divine Realm. Dragons from all over the world entered the Divine Realm to experience these concepts. And as they did, they felt a connection to the concept. Those who spent a great deal of time there began to embody the concept, which allowed them to carry new concepts from the Divine Realm into the world, creating brand new features such as rivers, stones, and lakes. Dragons who grew to embody concepts split themselves into multiples to fully contain and protect all the wisdom, knowledge, beauty, and fury of the concept. They deemed their new lives in multiple as many in one. The concept the dragons embody were linked to a real phenomenon in the world, a lake, a thunderstorm, a bridge. Dragons came to love all concepts, and each had a dragon or two to embody and protect it. As the concept grew, the lake gained fish, became temperate, joined another lake by a river. The dragon connected to the concept gained a new head. Each head, unique and mighty, protected the concept and kept it safe with their siblings. Dragons in the Divine Realm shared their concepts with one another and brought knowledge of them to the world to share with dragons all over. Within the Divine Realm, time slowed and a dragon could truly understand a concept, becoming more fully one with it. Some dragons were so wrapped up in their concepts they never left the Divine Realm. Others rarely revisited, viewing their stewardship over the concept in the world as more important than understanding it. Other dragons came and went from the Divine Realm as a pastime, viewing the concepts as a polite curiosity. When the gods started to repattern the world, they caught the many in one off guard. Those dragons wondered at these strange, fleshy creatures and wanted to contemplate them in the Divine Realm. The dragons underestimated humans, who were far more complex than they originally thought. Bringing the concept of a human to the Divine Realm to contemplate it alerted humanity to the realm's presence, and humans started to enter of their own accord. For the humans who proved worthy, the dragons gifted them with a taste of the Divine Realm. For humans who proved unworthy, there was only death. While the dragons viewed this as neither good nor evil, only the truth of life and death, the gods could not tolerate dragons eating their followers. Soon, the heroes, scions, and gods alike were at their doorsteps, hunting those who would kill a human. Those who hunted were not systematic in their purpose, but the many in one could not see the danger of what was happening, and they continued as though nothing was wrong. Then hunters showed up in the Divine Realm. The many in one did not realize their intent until it was too late, and none are sure how they made it so far into the Divine Realm. Some speculate they followed an oblivious dragon, but none admit to having entered around the same time, and who would admit to such a tragic mistake? The dragons killed the hunters once they realized their intent, but they knew the realm was no longer safe. How many more would try to enter? Fearing the destruction of their beautiful conceptual space, the many in one on Earth severed themselves from the Divine Realm, sealing all gates and passageways. And with the sealing, the dragons stopped growing heads as new concepts arose, as they had put all the conceptual magic into the Divine Realm. As they closed off the Divine Realm, the many in one who remained in the world banded together for safety. Between the loss of those trapped in the Divine Realm and those murdered at the hands of gods, the dragons feared they would be wiped out, and with them all concepts. They called themselves the Naga, and called to any who embodied concepts, or even those who had only visited the Divine Realm, to join them for safety. They vowed to protect the divine realm from intruders, promising to never open its gates again until the concepts were safe from the hubris of God and humanity. Many Naga believed the best way to secure the divine realm's safety was the enlightenment of humanity. When humanity understood the wisdom of the Naga, it would be safe for the Naga to return home. They embraced humanity in all its flawed and tragic glory. Many Naga are hobbled creatures, shadows of their former glory, bearing more than a few grisly scars from where one or more of their heads died. Those Naga who have survived attacks with a few remaining heads are vicious, wrathful creatures to approach, refusing to make the mistakes of their youth by trusting visitors who say they come in peace. The Naga's acceptance of their multi-headed experience is known as many in one. A Naga's heads may agree with one another, argue, or be indifferent, but each is an individual and also part of one entity. Naga rarely ascribe gender to themselves, though certain heads may prefer being masculine or feminine. Heads refer to themselves in the third person and to their siblings by the name of the facet they represent: love, cool breeze, fury, and so on. Naga come in all shapes and sizes, and most sport multiple heads. Each Naga, even those who have joined the flight recently, has a physical embodiment of a concept in their head. This gemstone-like growth provides wisdom, insight, and power. For loss of a better word, an immortal term, the growth is called an Atman, taken from the Sanskrit word for soul. People value Atman, hunting Naga for them, dating back to the first loss of the first head and plundering of its treasure. Mortals who possess an Atman take on the characteristics of its wisdom, granting them godlike powers, and gods transform into something more terrifying. Thus, when a Naga loses a head, they lose part of their power and wisdom, leaving them diminished, bitter echoes of who they once were. While that dragon's memories still live on in the collective memory all dragons share, the Naga can never reunite with the head, even if it reincarnates. It isn't like they can just grow a new head. Not anymore, since the divine realm is closed. Vasuki, king of the Naga. Elias's, companion of Shiva. Vasuki is a many-headed Naga known best for resting around the neck of Shiva after the divine realm closed. Their concept is divinity, and each head Vasuki possesses espouses the teaching of a holy entity Vasuki spent time with. No matter how many entities Vasuki visits, they always return to Shiva's shoulders, the god who best understands the cycle of life and death. Before the divine realm closed, Vasuki was a dragon of little import. Small, with only a handful of heads born from minor water spirits and long-dead natural forces, Vasuki had little in the way of responsibilities. They spent most of their time exploring the world and delighted in the gods and their stories. When the divine realm closed, he used the connections he had been making to be the first Naga to ally themselves with a god for protection. Vasuki and Shiva have an easy relationship, with Vasuki coming and going as they please. When they leave Shiva's shoulders, it is through the premise of carrying his messages to other gods. During this time, the Naga takes the opportunity to contact their vast network of serpentine spies they use to leech knowledge from the world. Vasuki's spy network is vaster than any other dragons, comprising of humans, serpents, legendary creations, and even gods. And plenty of those have no idea they are feeding information to the smooth-talking dragon. Gods who entertain Vasuki for a time always end up owing them in some way. Vasuki has yet to collect on any of these debts. Vasuki is here to help. The more time Vasuki spends with a god, the more they owe, until the Naga sees fit to return to Shiva, the only god who owes the dragon nothing. Eventually, the dragon will have enough secrets and debts to bring the whole of the pantheons crumbling down on themselves. Until then, he lives to serve. Unlike many other Naga, who are a whirlwind of opposing thoughts and ideas, Vasuki is singularly focused and speaks only through their main head. They always aim to please and assist, never outright refusing a request. That doesn't mean they don't twist and mold it into something the dragon can accomplish. They can't collect these debts if they can't deliver something in return, even if it isn't exactly what the requester originally wanted. Vasuki's heirs are no different. Slick, composed, smooth talkers who rarely raised their voice. Each heir is exceedingly good at keeping secrets and guards any information they glean jealously, even from those closest to them. Vasuki's prizes loyalty more than anything else in their heirs, testing them constantly to ensure compliance. They are government officials, socialites, lawyers, con artists, and criminals. Callings: mystic, ruler, judge. Memory: traveling vast distances through wondrous realms, speaking with gods and titans about the nature of divinity, exchanging stories by a campfire, whispering secrets in the dark, losing a friend and companion to greedy enemies.
Oh.
Damn.
Okay, yeah, Nagas are kind of awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to play one.
So, Nagas went to the Divine Realm, loved it there, brought humans in, got them, made them leave, and now they're stuck outside them until they can get back in, basically?
It seems like it, yeah.
That's
Like,
interesting.
it seems like it's a fable of, like, you know, if you decide you're gonna get a human pet, pick the right human. It looks like Patrick is talking, but I can't hear him.
Oh, yes. Look at that.
Use your words, Patrick. Use your words.
I was like, I should mute while people talking, and then I was like, yep. Okay, perfect. Yes. I said, like I said in the chat, but I'm also going to say out loud, Naga are like the coolest flight, I think. They're probably my favorite. But not only did they like go to this Divine Realm awesome, they actually created the Divine Realm.
They made it.
Yeah, they made this Divine Realm, embodied all concepts of everything in the whole wide world, and then humans like came in, totally wrecked their totally awesome space. Like, well, in order for everything not to go to shit, I guess we'll close this off, even though this is the most awesome place in existence. Close it off, and now they're like, okay, so even though you guys were the ones making us close this off, we're gonna try to enlighten you guys and like give you the necessary knowledge so we can one day, only for the sole purpose is so we can one day go back to our Divine Realm.
Yeah. I like the implicit threat of like one day Vasuki will just destroy all pantheons.
Yes. Yeah. Rachel read Vasuki's entry because that is the specific dragon her heir is of. But yes, the story of Vasuki is a very scary one. It's just like this very calm, like, no, we're all friends. Don't worry, totally friends. And they're just gonna flip the switch one day and be like, okay, and everything you know doesn't exist anymore. Boom.
Oh my god.
Babylon 5 is a favorite TV show of mine, and it just showed up on HBO Max, so I've been binging the hell out of it. He really reminds me of the character of Mr. Morden.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I might have to take cues from that character when I play mine.
Oof. Okay, so don't talk to them ever.
I mean, until I have something you want. What do you want?
As Vasuki's heir, they're not going to turn down any request you give them. But, you know, it's probably going to come back on you tenfold.
I mean, everybody at Babylon 5 got exactly what they asked for from Mr. Morden. Just saying.
100% true. 100%.
This is some monkey paw shit right here. Perfect. So 4 flights down, 2 more to go. But our patient viewers will have to wait until after we take a small break, especially because we have the wonderful Ever joining us from out of the blue. Just, it's like they teleported here. But yes, we will come back after 10 minutes. So it'll be 10:48 Eastern Standard Time. We will see you all then.
Yes.
And welcome back. All right, let's jump right back into it, going back over some of our flight's history. We're going to have 2 more left, and then we'll get into our characters. So, we're going to go with Dwayne's flight, the Lung flight. Please, Dwayne, tell us about them.
I should unmute myself first. In other areas of the world, Scions and gods were killing dragons, and locally increasing anthrocentrist policies placed humans and humanoids before all other species. Seeing the writing on the wall, the dragons began a quick exodus from the Shin, Kami, Atua, and other pantheons in the area. By the Kami invasion of the world in 600 BCE, hundreds of Asian dragons left the Atua, Kami, and Shin behind. The strategic move saved countless lives, though some, such as Yamata no Orochi, died at the hands of the Kami before they could all escape properly. Although very rarely agreed on matters, the Leung created a network of communities as part of the strategic retreat, ensuring none would ever face the gods or titans alone again. Debates over who should rule and what to call the nascent flight were fierce and extended. They eventually settled on Leung as the name due to the flight having more Leung than any other type of dragon. Thus more votes for Leung than any other name. Leadership was a more complicated topic, with everything from direct democracy to anarchism to, what is that word? Cratocracy? Cratocracy.
Anarchism to cratocracy, yes.
Yeah, cratocracy. Seriously considered. In the end, they did a bit of everything. Major policy decisions were handled through a flight-wide vote, with irregular flight gatherings taking place in Ryujin's castle. Voluntary groups formed for mutual aid, creating a grassroots structure for handling small regional Leung issues. And Ryujin was thrown under the whale, voted the king of the flight against the wishes of the dragon, who already had his claws full with his kingdom. The Leung are the largest flight and probably the most organized. They benefit from coming together early, which saved a great many of their numbers, which in turn gives them the advantage of a multitude of minds all put towards strategizing their goals. The Leung remember their time both before gods and as gods, and they have never felt easy with their decision to leave that power behind. They have the security to play a long game, which ends as them the supreme rulers of the world and all mankind. Thanks to the most recent violent upheaval of the Titan, what was that again?
Titanomachy.
Titanomachy, there you go. The dragons in Asia have learned that there is safety in numbers, not to mention Earth's deepest seas, where even Poseidon knows better than to meddle. They started accepting stragglers from all over the world, but only if that dragon was happy with hiding among a democratic oligarchy. They once tried to recruit the dragons who would later become the serpents, but at the time those dragons weren't ready to leave their pantheons behind. I'm gonna skip a little bit of this. The Leung have crafted a careful plan to not just get rid of the pantheons, but usurp them, taking their place of ultimate worship among humans. To this end, they have spent their time gaining allies and integrating them with humanity. They can't overtly gain their worship, for if the pantheons caught wind of their plans, they would surely rain fiery wrath upon all the dragons of the world. While gods and titans struggle against one another, flinging their children into battle, the Leung have been playing a different game. Instead of fighting in the streets and clouds, they use their old talents of blessings, empowering one another and turning ordinary humans into potent allies and pawn. It's no coincidence that one of the most famous faces in Japan is green and scaly, and those most devoted to him are at the top of the game for entertainment. Just as in the old days, Leung rewarded virtue in humans, These days, those virtues serve the dragons. It would be a mistake to say that these mortals constitute an army or are heroes, but there are millions of them in the Leong's pocket. They have come from all levels of society, from government to entertainment to law enforcement to criminal enterprise. Anyone you would meet could be a pawn of the Leong, part of a vast conspiracy as part of a dangerous end game. And my patron is Hong Gong, the Skybreaker. Kong Kong was a dragon with a fiery temper when the Shin came and offered him a place in the heavens. He grudgingly accepted, hoping it would give him something interesting to do. But the dragon soon found he was only one of many and unappreciated in his greatness. As impetuous as he was long, Kong Kong did nothing by half measures. Not content to be second to anyone, he went to war with the fire god Zhun Shu, clashing through heaven until he finally lost, plummeting to earth. In a fit of rage of his loss, he slammed his head against Mount Buzhu, one of the sky pillars. This is so hard. There's 3 different languages. I'm getting confused. His strike gouged heaven and snapped one of the cords of earth, knocking the earth askew, permanently changing the course of all of China's rivers, as well as the Middle Kingdom's relationship with heaven. Though Niuwa tried to repair the damage, there was only so much she could do. Hong Kong's heirs are reckless and single-minded. They see dangers all around and will not let that stop them from their goals. They're cops who shoot first and ask questions later. The beat is rough, and they close cases. Why should they care about getting written up? They get to go home in a bed, not a casket. They are managers and CEOs who are driven by metrics and quarterly earnings. If an employee stands between them and the company's success, screw that guy. It's better to have a prosperous company than it is to look after the little guy. They are bounty hunters and repossession agents chasing down thieves to get their guy. Being a skip tracer or a repo agent isn't as cool as it looks on TV, but nothing stands in the way of them and their target. By hook, crook, or gun, they're going to get it.
Perfect.
Bang.
Thank you for that, Dwayne. All right. 5 down, 1 to go. That just leaves the Lindworms. Ever, please tell us about them.
Well, they're very wormy. The end. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I apologize. All right. In the regions of the world that would later be called Northeastern Europe and Scandinavia, dragons gathered in considerable numbers. There, the dragons shared stories with one another, and some collected information to share out with all other dragons. Some had a reputation as living libraries, able to call forth all manner of information without needing to swim through the memory streams. Dragons from around the globe would come and share food and stories with these dragons. The most renowned of them all was Vishap, and they called her the Keeper of Memories. She became a repository of all that dragonkind knew, and as long as she lived, all dragons knew what she knew with little effort. Those closest to her were the keepers of sacred memory and gentle librarians who sang and swam and stomped and shimmered their stories. I just pictured a dragon stomping, glitter going. Sorry. When the gods formed pantheons and changed the world, these dragons thought nothing of it. They collected this new information and stored it with the rest, falling easily into whatever roles the gods described for them, because they knew these were simply more stories for them to remember. It worked well for them, at least for a little while, until Heracles slew Vishap. In the moment of her death, Vishap stretched out her talons and scattered her memory across the world. When her blood soaked into the soil, aquifers deep beneath the earth carried it to the sea. When her bones sank into the mud, the stones themselves took up her song. Then those fractured memories flooded into the collective memory of every dragon in the world, muddying what was once clear waters. Most dragons wouldn't admit owing anything to the death of a dragon at the hands of a Scion, but Vishap's final death magic created the network of dreams and signs that dragons use to communicate with one another and their heirs to this day. But with that magic, Vishap inadvertently stole the memories of the other dragons who held the collective memories of all dragonkind. As they became connected through her magic, their memories started flowing away from them. Jormungandr, the oldest and most knowledgeable of them, realized first what was happening. In a desperate attempt to hold on what he was losing, he called all the others to him. Even as he explained what Vishap's magic was doing, he could feel that he had lost something vitally important. The other dragons also knew deep down that they were missing something, and so they all pledged to find it once more. Those who joined Jormungandr in his search became the Lindworms, and any who seek understanding, knowledge, memory, or even just peace of mind, found their way to the flight to fill its numbers. Now they seek all knowledge, memory, and story that tells of their past. They have not forgotten it completely, but certain pieces of a puzzle are missing, and they cannot see the whole because of it. As they forgot their own stories, fate took hold and let the gods weave their tales instead. Many who were already following a story set forth by a pantheon forgot they were ever dragons to begin with. Others simply accepted these new roles in hopes that they would jar loose a memory or two. The stories gods and their followers tell of the Lindworms have taken such a hold on the mythology that even the Lindworms themselves don't know the truth anymore. The pantheons and their heroes cast Lindworms as simplistic monsters, and at first this served them well, as their foes underestimated them, but over time, the truth became muddied due to the flight's own fractured memories. What's worse is, they know it. They know that the tales told about them don't tally with their memories, but they can't match up the fine points. The Lindworms know what they remember about how they came into the world. Doesn't match the ridiculous tales written down in Greece, Russia, or Poland, or the stories of the Aesir tell their scions this day. They know they weren't always Titans, or that they aren't Titan spawn at all. They act as monsters sometimes, yes, but more importantly, they seek a way to clear their memories and regain their true identities. Lindworms know their history lies scattered across the world, hidden in crystallized blood of Vishap, turned up as rubies and sapphires the size of a person's fist. It is wound through the deep earth in veins of gold and threaded through the metal the gods beat into their sacred weaponry. An heir who brings home some fragment of missing history to his parent receives exaltation and reward above all others. An heir who untangles the truth of his parent from the false myths of the world receives the adulation not just of his parent, but the entire flight. To a one, the Lindworms live up to their names. Lindworm meaning ensnaring snake in Old Norse, and with the addition of limbs and sometimes wings, that sums the flight up exactly. They look like serpents, long with glistening scales, with 4 legs only. Morphologically, they resemble the long... Dwayne, say that. Long.
Young.
Thank you. Flight, but their temperaments and ultimately their goals separate them from the other flight. Once upon a time, Lindworms had great cunning and a considerable intelligence. Vishap's death robbed them of their bone-deep memory, but not their cunning. They know what they've lost, and they know they can regain it if they just find all the pieces and put them back together. The flight does not blame their lost member for the losses, but instead the gods who let this happen. As a result, they crave more than anything a return for their knowledge, and they crave revenge. To find a Lindworm, you must travel to the end of the world and then go a little bit farther. Heirs have sought out magical items which allowed them to dive deep into the sea to speak with Jormungandr. They have climbed a tree until they couldn't climb anymore in search of memories from the long-lost Vishap, who loved to swim in the clouds. And sometimes, if the moon is right and her mood is good, finding a lindworm might be just as easy as driving out past Inverness and waiting on the edge of a loch. Nithogr, who gnaws the roots. Back in the dawn of time, Nithogr wandered free across the face of the waters in the world with his brothers Goin and Moin. When the gods rose, Odin pinned Nidhogr to the root of the world tree, driving one of the roots of Yggdrasil through his tail. He tried to gnaw his way free, the whole time bitterly spitting curses at each of the Aesir, and at the eagle at the top of the tree. His curses only ever reached the ears of Ratatosk, but perhaps one witness can bear the news of a curse to the world beyond the Terra Incognita. Nithogur's heirs claimed that his curses taught Ratatosk the art of laying a curse upon someone, and that squirrels chatter because they mimic his endless complaining about how much it hurts to have a tree root through your hindquarters. Nithogr might have stayed gnawing that root into eternity if one of his long-lost heirs hadn't brought him a memory of his life as a dragon. With that knowledge, he gained sudden freedom and discovered that the Aesir had murdered his brothers. He set about creating new heirs, swearing to each that they alone were unique and his true heir, and any others are pretenders. When the war between the Aesir and the Lindworms grows a little too chilly for his tastes, Nithogr is there to fight the flames, or to light the flames again, especially if his heirs get the opportunity to damage Odin or his scions. Despite his growing separation between Nithogr the Titan and Nithogr the Dragon, the Lindworm retains some of the Titan's traits, namely, his hunger. After chewing through Yggdrasil's roots for so long, he constantly craves meat. When the craving gets too strong, he sometimes returns to his titanic mantle, but when he's there, he nearly forgets all of his draconic plans. He tries to satisfy his hunger by eating the Aesir's followers, or any who would dare venture into his domain. His heirs spend a great deal of time seeking those worthy of a slow, agonizing death, being devoured by a dragon to help sate him. First on that list, those who take his name in vain, or twist his myth to suit some of perverse human agenda. These days, Nithogr creates heirs who meet his rarefied standards and exhibit exceptional drive. The hunger gnaws at their bones the same way their father might if given the chance. They want things. They want power. They want knowledge. They want everything. He crafts and spurs on their hunger, driving them to great feats of avarice. The callings for a Lindworm are Collector, Destroyer, and Predator.
Perfect. Thank you, Ever. Perfect person to read Lindworm history, as nailed those Norse pronunciations.
We hope. We hope.
We're going to go, I'm preemptively saying you nailed them. But yes, so, and Ever also read about Nidhogr because their character's personal dragon is Nidhogr. So, now you know a little bit about each flight, and for those who have a specific dragon tagged to them, a little bit about that dragon as well. So that'll learn a little bit about what might drive each of our characters to do something they might do, or a twist or a lie they might tell to their broodmates. So, now we're going to introduce our characters. I'll just kind of randomly call on you, so you better be ready. And we'll go over kind of some of the main highlights of each character, and then that'll probably do it for us tonight. So, Sean, tell us about your character.
Oh no, I wasn't ready.
Oh,
I'm not prepared.
Big sauce.
Cool. So, my character is Lorenzo Flores Gonzalez. Lorenzo was born in Venezuela and lived there for only a few years before their mother expatriated to the United States with a job in the healthcare industry. Their mother was an exceedingly intelligent and caring woman. She helped Lorenzo through their studies and advocated for them when their teachers couldn't understand why they wouldn't speak up in class. Lorenzo's life was not easy, but their mother did all that she could to foster a healthy household and give room to Lorenzo to learn and grow at their own pace. Lorenzo, small font. Lorenzo spent a lot of their youth alone, struggling through systems that routinely failed them, and watched their family back in Venezuela struggle to survive. They would have regularly asked their mother to help them prepare care packages for their cousins, and it was the one thing they felt connected. It was the one thing they felt connected to through everything. Lorenzo struggled in school, but successfully graduated and started classes studying psychology at the University of Washington, with an eye on applying their master's program on speech pathology. Already deeply concerned about the economic concerns in Venezuela and the economical concerns around the world, Lorenzo's bequeathal came more as a relief than a surprise. He dreamed of flying through a clean world, a place that could be with the right amount of dedication and work. At first, these memories were overwhelming, and Lorenzo thought he was hallucinating. But when he followed a trail to a P.O. box in their name, he knew it was all too real. Inside was a key to a safety deposit box filled with papers, including a deed to a house in their name and a sizable inheritance, with a distant relative even his mother couldn't remember. Lorenzo still doesn't know who their draconic ancestor is, but he knows that they are looking out for them as he follows their instructions as best he can. For the first time in his life, he feels like he's a part of an institution that isn't setting them up for failure. Since then, Lorenzo has become an active environmentalist activist, using their free time to push governments to start working for the people and against industrial interests. Lorenzo knows he doesn't know a lot about it, but his passion for the subject and the direction of their handler has led him to consult subject matter experts. Lorenzo is unbelievable at social mimicry, oration, and diplomacy, but these things are draining if not done on his own terms. He often sets up others to speak, raising up their voices and ensuring the most knowledgeable about the subject is the one who has all the attention in the room. On the side, he acts as an autism advocate for young Latinx communities, hoping to provide tools he developed for himself to thrive. Lorenzo believes passionately in alternate forms of communication and voices for the voiceless. Lorenzo doesn't speak unless he absolutely must and prefers nonverbal communication. When he does focus on speech and oration, he is forthright and incisive. And that's Lorenzo.
Perfect. And remind us again, what is your flight?
My flight is the Serpents.
Perfect. All right. So, in character creation for Scion Dragon, there is a character creation guide in the book, just like there is in Origin. But some of the things there's a lot of crossover between the two. There are slightly different names for some things, but if you've made a Scion Origin character, then you're going to be very familiar with the process for making a Scion Dragon character. One of the similar things is deeds. In Scion Dragon, you have 3 deeds. One is a draconic deed, which is assigned to you by your flight or specific dragon patron. All of your draconic deeds will be the same, which will be to complete the missions assigned to you in order to bring about change in the standings of dragons everywhere. Don't worry, I'll give that to you. You don't have to rush to write that down. Then you have 2 worldly deeds. The first is a short-term deed that is personal to you that your character would want to complete. So sounds like for Lorenzo, a short-term deed might be to set up... well, I was going to say, maybe set up a charity or, perhaps find a subject matter expert on something they're looking to accomplish in the short term.
Yeah. Like becoming an eco-terrorist organization determined to rule the world. Wait, no, that doesn't sound right.
No, not quite.
No, that's
getting
not right.
Closer, warmer.
Man, I don't know. Probably over, like, if they were to encounter something that's like a spot is like, oh, well, that's not right. Sort of ecologically to correct that, just as like a side quest.
So so that would probably turn into something like correct an ecological. I don't want to say disaster. That seems
situation.
A bit big, but yes, situation. And then the third deed heir has is a brood deed. That'll be something that you guys are going to come up with together, which is not necessarily something that your flights ask of you or something that your flight is going to tell you, but something you want to accomplish as a group. So that'll be something you guys can kind of, depending on how much time we have at the end after everyone understands the characters, we'll be able to do today, or we'll do at the beginning of the next session. So if you would real quick, Sean, go through Lorenzo's just stuff unique to Dragon, which is their Dragon Knacks and their Dragon Magic.
So Dragon Knacks, they get Healer, or their callings are Healer, Mystic, and Primeval. Their knacks for Healer are Herd Immunity, Rapid Growth, Violent Purification. For Mystic, it's Omnicolot Translation, which I remember that one. Basically, they can talk in any language.
Useful.
Primeval is Calling Wind and Flame, Messenger of the Infinite, and Purifying Force, which I remember reading that one was like, if there's just a poisoned area or an aberrant area, they can like purify it so that it's normal.
Useful for someone who loves the world.
Yes. The purviews are Animal Control, which is Master of Beasts, which is exactly what it says. Elemental Manipulation, Earth, Adamant Bonds, which that was like I can bind to something and it protects me. Animate Earth, you can animate Earth. Purification, Purify an Organization. This one I remember is from this morning when I was reading it, is I can literally like take a cult and turn it into a force for good for almost an infinite amount of time. So that's cool. And then from my horde that I have, I get decay purview, and it's called Frayed, and I don't remember what that one does off the top of my head, but yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so another thing I wanted to mention was Scion Dragon also has paths, just like Scion does, regular Scion does, which you have your origin path, which is your upbringing, how you were raised, your early life. Then you have your calling path, which is what you did before you were bequeathed by a dragon. So kind of, in Lorenzo's case, a calling path would be as an activist. And then you have your flight path. So that's the path that you are set on once you were bequeathed upon by your dragon or your flight. And each of those give you different skills to, just like in regular Scion, they give you different skills that you are proficient in based on, things you learned from your past, where you are now, and where you're going in the future.
So I would just like to say that I picked this character blindly. All I knew is I read serpents and was like, I'm doing serpents. So my persuasion is 5 dots. It seems to be a running theme for most of the characters I'm playing now. So, yeah.
Perfect. Sounds like someone's Mr. Charisma up there.
Slightly.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Sean, for going over your character.
Blue Charisma.
All right, next up's gonna be, I'm feeling Steven.
Okay, I am also playing a pre-made character that I went just entirely off of reading Joka. So I am playing Ambrosia Cook.
That's an awesome name, by the way.
It's
Ambrosia.
a really dope name.
That's
Ambrosia
so cool.
Cook. Yeah. Everyone in bed. Let's start already. Here we go. Every one of Ambrosia's report cards in elementary school came back with the same notes. Bossy, disruptive, does not cooperate with classmates, disrespects authority. But her teachers couldn't be farther from the truth. It was never that Ambrosia disrespected their authority. It was that she found it lacking. And if they couldn't help a kid get vengeance for being hurt or bullied, then she would do it for them. If you were a white boy, her mother sighed, they'd be all over you, saying you could join the police. But that was exactly what Ambrosia wanted to do. An otherwise cheerful, confident, and responsible young adult, Ambrosia Cook struggled with the secret she continued to hold closer and closer to her chest. For as long as she could remember, she'd been seeing things that weren't there, feeling things that didn't make sense. It felt like someone else was writing a story in her mind, filled with uncontrollable fires, violent evil, and vengeance unrealized. She hated it. She wouldn't allow her real life to be like this story. As she got older, however, these vague feelings flared into straight-up hallucinations and a bizarre, pyromaniacal hunger. Though she confessed to loathing the idea of arson. Even though she couldn't find proof of mental illness in her family, she began to fear for the worst and to plan around it. While she studied criminal justice at Washington State University, she also saw a slew of therapists, carefully passing her visions off as dreams in an effort to determine their source and hopefully smother them. The SPD is corrupt, her friends warned her. Yes, but Ambrosia wasn't. She was obsessed with seeking justice and thwarting her visions. After her graduation and subsequent recruitment to the Seattle Police Department, Ambrosia told herself that she would hunt down all the rotten apples and gleefully cast them out. However, the year she finally moved into her dream position as origin and cause investigator was among the worst of her life. Her first case was arson, a corner convenience store. They caught the guy less than a block away with an empty gas can. It was open and shut, but none of it added up. She never found evidence of liquid accelerant, only deliberate electrical malfunction. No one read or commented on her reports. The suspect swore innocent right up through his trial and his sentencing. After he was hauled away, Ambrosia learned he was the brother of a notoriously anti-cop citizen activist. She resigned in disgust the very next day, and her partner soon followed. Ambrosia couldn't stand knowing how close she'd come to living a life like her horrible walking nightmares. Her partner discussed earning certification as a private investigator, but Ambrosia, desperate and emotionally starving, considered turning to vigilantism. Until the day she received a strange, greasy package from an unknown sender. Inside was the gas can, Exhibit A, from her fateful first case. No sooner had her fingers brushed the red plastic than a rush of bequeathal overwhelmed her. The collective thoughts and memories of an ancient, ravening being screamed from within her. She doesn't crave fire. She craves extinguishing. She doesn't want to spread wickedness and injustice. She wants to consume it. Now awakened to her still barely comprehensible existence as kin to these crime-eating dragons, Ambrosia Cook commits herself to working full-time at the investigation and consultant office with her old partner. Ambrosia hasn't told her yet exactly what caused her sweeping personal changes, and Ambrosia herself still doesn't have a guide for her new abilities. But the two make excellent use of their old contacts in the force and the growing reputation as dogged, determined, and impartial criminal investigators. Ambrosia's hungers are sated for the time being, but her dreams and visions never stopped. Ambrosia is a young black woman in her late 20s. Light brown skin is dusted with freckles, and her hair is always tied back in a loose casual bun. She is short but powerfully built and happy to dress however she pleases now that she doesn't have to wear a uniform. That said, her outfits are still a professional mix of business casual and thrifty streetwear. She's constantly chewing on something. Gum, ice, pin caps, leftover bones from lunch. A sign of her hunger. So yeah, Ambrosia Cook.
And remind us again what flight you're part of.
The Joker.
Excellent. All right.
You wanted origins, callings, things like that?
Yes, please.
So, my origin is the reincarnation of a lost dragon. So yes, I am the only reincarnated one in the group.
Mm-hmm.
It was to my knowledge, at least.
Yes.
My calling is cop turned private eye. So yes, this is a pre-made character. I would never make a top character. For my flight, I'm an enforcer for the Joka, so that comes with a couple of extra skill abilities, things like that. Do we want to do all the knacks in Magic?
Just your draconic ones, and then and you can just loosely kind of go over what they do. We'll see them in practice here within the next couple of shows.
All right, so I had to write down what these do because I don't remember things well. So my draconic knacks is Power, Tasting, Bite, and Dragon Sight. Which Power, Tasting, Bite. Where did I put you? Once per fight, when you inflict an injury, you may also devour one of the target's flares. Until the end of the fight, the target no longer has access to that flare, and you may use it as if it was one of your knacks. Where a flare would cost tension, you spend momentum instead. So I assume what that means is that I can basically consume someone's power for a fight.
Yes, I believe so.
A flare. I'm not sure exactly.
I'm assuming that's what the bad. I'm assuming that's what the bad guy powers are called.
Most likely.
Tyler can correct me if I'm wrong.
Bad guy powers are called flares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can eat a bad guy's power and then use it as my own for a fight.
Pretty dope.
Pretty dope. And then I have Dragon Sight, Pit Viper Sense. So just imagine how Pit Vipers can sense things, heat signatures, vibration, stuff like that. I have all those senses.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. And then my Dragon Magic is Elemental Manipulation Fire. So I have a couple of fire-based abilities. The coolest one that I'll talk about for just 1 second is Ashes to Ashes. Ashes to Ashes
cool.
is so dope. So basically, I can burn something with my brain. And if I destroy it, it can be a living or an adamant object. And if I destroy it, it is turned completely to ash. But
Okay.
I can also take something burned to ash and unburnify it.
Okay.
So if something has been burned down, I can reconstitute it. It has a small aspect of healing fire-based damage. So if you get burned by something, I can unburnify. If you're still alive, I can unburnify you and take away that fire damage. However, if you die in a fire, while I can deburnify your body, it would not bring you back to life.
Okay, good to know.
But technically, I can take a burned corpse and I can make it unburned. So if we want to hide our tracks,
Yeah, let's say that might be useful.
It might be really
But it's
useful.
still a corpse.
But it's still a corpse. Yeah. So it'd be like
We have no idea how they died.
What happened? So that's Ashes to Ashes, and I got a couple of other abilities. I can absorb. Going off the consumption thing, I can eat information, and stuff like that. And I have an aura. There's a lot of. Long and short of it, a lot of her skills outside of the magic come from kind of that interrogator, stern presence kind of tone. So she can make a room really uncomfortable with just her presence, and then she gets advantages if she drops because there's a social scale, I think, for each scene. You can have a positive feeling or a negative feeling. If she adjusts it by one of those ranks, she gets some bonuses to the scene. So
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome. Then, just like we do with Sean, one of your worldly deeds is the short-term personal deed. So, what do you think would be one for Ambrosia? I mean, or in her case, maybe unburn something.
I was gonna say probably unburn something. Maybe find someone who's lost something to a fire and bring it back for them.
Okay, not bad. All right, next up, let's do Rachel.
So I am not playing a pre-gen, so I do not have a delightful background paragraph. This character was made for me by Tyler and Patty. She is
Mostly Tyler. I'm not going to steal his credit here. It was mostly Tyler.
I had no idea. You just handed me a Google Doc. She's really cool. She was the child of an Indian nuclear scientist. And so this character, who I've named Indira, grew up within the halls of power. And so I've
Great name, by the way.
Thank you. I just went to behind the name and picked one that sounded pretty. So sort of my rich internal landscaping for this character is that I remember when India announced that they had successfully tested a nuclear bomb, like their reaction was like, they did what?
But a what now?
Yeah, no, it took everybody by surprise because it was so well under wraps. And so I figure, I decided it was going to be her mom. If her mom was part of this project, this character would have grown up, with cloak and dagger, secret keeping, all of that being very, very normal for her. And she probably would have been incredibly proud of her mom and by extension her country. For like, yeah, now the world takes us seriously. We won. We're in the G7. You can't stop us. And so that sort of patriotism, love of country is what led her to join the Indian military and then later the intelligence service. And I never really detailed how she sort of became a dragon, but she definitely wants to use everything she learns in service to Vasuki for the betterment of her people.
For sure. And definitely can take some pointers from Vasuki of presenting the outwardly friendly appearance and fiercely remembering every single word you said in a conversation, so I can definitely not use it against you later.
Yeah, I feel she was probably given a puzzle by Vasuki, pretty much to test that she had the right instincts and the right resourcefulness.
Perfect. Yeah, that seems very much so a way of doing a bequeathal by Vasuki. So, as we went over earlier, Rachel is Naga, which
Yes.
if I would make a dragon character, I would definitely make a Naga flight character. And what are your callings?
So callings, those would be the paths, right?
The right above paths, so callings.
Oh, callings, there we are. Mystic 2, Ruler 1, and Judge 2.
Fantastic. And then so you can your paths after that.
Yeah, it looks like I've got some really cool custom paths. My origin path is I am the child of an Indian nuclear scientist. I get academics, science, physics, and technology. My calling is an Indian operative, a spy in Kashmir. I get close combat, firearms, and subterfuge. And my flight calling, gather intelligence on enemies of the Naga, culture, survival, and subterfuge.
Awesome. Then if you just want to kind of go over just your draconic knacks and dragon magic, the stuff that's going to be new for Dragon Scion.
Yeah, so my draconic knacks are Snapping Hydra's Form, Skink's Regrowth, which if I read it right, at some point I might get a second head.
Okay.
Like, that breaks the masquerade, but cool.
Very Naga of you, yes.
Draconic Majesty and Dragon Sight. And then my dragon magic is teleportation, weather control, and understanding. I know the spells of lethal weather. I hope I get to use that. Foresight, jump, and teleportation.
Okay. Fantastic. Sounds like you've got some very awesome tricks up your sleeve for when that perfect visage is broken and the claws and heads need to come out.
It's snapping Hydra's form, in which I might permanently get another head.
I'm excited. I kind of want that to happen. We're going to see how that works. I want that.
Well,
to happen.
that's the transformation level. So, yay!
Okay. And then just like we do with Sean and Steve, what do you think would be your worldly deed that's short term and personal to you?
Well, it seems like all the other characters are focused on University of Washington. Is that accurate? Because so far we've had 2 people associated.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so I think she's probably in Seattle, probably at the behest of the Indian government, probably to investigate, maybe there are some hints that their science department might be working on something interesting and cool. Go grab a USB of some cool and interesting data.
Okay. Perform spy act of some sort, namely information gathering. Alrighty. Perfect. Well, 3 down, 3 to go, viewers. Who should we hear from next? I'm thinking let's hear from Ever.
Me?
You.
I accidentally muted myself. Okay. All right. I'm actually, since he's in the US, I'm gonna use the more American pronunciation of his name. But his name is Jacob Lucassen. Jacob Lucassen likes to say he was born twice. The first time, 1965, in the small, predominantly Norwegian town of Poulsbo, Washington. And the second time, more than 20 years later, after going to war with himself and his discordant self-image, his uncomprehending family, and psychiatrists. Same. After decades of fighting to become himself, Jacob was determined to help others like him, other marginalized kids with nowhere to go for protection. When he wasn't involved in rigorous strength training, he was volunteering at shelters, safe houses, and any after-school organization that would have him to help the kids feel safe. When younger members of the fledgling LGBT center whispered anxiously of some gang terrorizing them outside of school, Jacob tuned in. It didn't take long to find and rip their posters from light posts. As he followed the trail, he started having visions of gnarled and twisted roots, a stabbing pain and a desire for power. These waking nightmares came with vague associations, a terrible injustice, a perverting of history, duties unfulfilled. It paralleled his own life in a heartbreaking, familiar way. Jacob had changed again, his bequeathal fully taking root, and with it came the knowledge of where to go, a vision of a man with encouragement to destroy him. Jacob found the source as the true Brotherhood of Odin, a rising clan of neo-Nazis. They barely attempted to hide themselves or their violent message, and many tolerant citizens were willing to turn a blind eye to ignore what they convinced themselves were mere ideological differences. From what Jacob heard, the Brotherhood was fast becoming a city fixture, an open secret, and a threat dangling over his kids. He knew he'd have nothing left to stand for if he couldn't protect them from a handful of thugs. He attended the Brotherhood's next meeting. The brother who greeted him at the door was a big Swede with a biker vest made of worm hide. He took one brief look at Jacob's shaved head and rune tattoos and fatefully decided, yeah, you belong here. Jacob learned this was a son of Odin, an honest one, in the flesh, with all the attendant powers and privileges, but his semi-divine status didn't exempt him from the Brotherhood's antagonism. As near as Jacob could tell, Mr. Odinson had just joined and had big hopes for the club. Wanted to improve it, downplay the violence, but allow it to mature into a proper cult to his father. The Brotherhood wasn't convinced, though. They wanted blood and fear and everyone who wasn't theirs. Finally, Mr. Odinson relented. Maybe a little raid to keep everyone's morale up, but nothing more dangerous than the LGBT Center. EMS arrived an hour later to find the hall a shattered ruin, the flash-frozen ground raked by some enormous beast. The bodies were covered in a rime that could only occur in Hyperborean climates, and some were shattered like gruesome glass sculptures. Mr. Odinson was alive, but broken, bleeding, and naked, shivering with cold and fear. The true Brotherhood of Odin disbanded. But there were more. There were so many more, and any of them could come for Jacob's kids. Jacob is persona non grata to most of the Aesir, even the more reasonable ones who understand he's doing the world a service by ridding it of Nazis. Now that he's found his calling, and polite society considers it abhorrent, he never lingers in one place for long and is reluctant to reveal his identity to anyone outside of his closest kin. When not on the hunt, he makes every attempt to decostume, usually with a baseball cap to cover his skull and long sleeves to hide his tattoos. All the same, looking like a skinhead is necessary to his hunting technique. Many dragons and their heirs assume Jacob is a dangerous renegade and demand the Lindworms bring him to heel, but the truth is, Lindworm authority is absent from his life deliberately. He's already doing a great fucking job without them. So his description. Jacob is a white man in his early 50s with a broad, solidly muscled body. His steely eyes, shaved head, and dour expression can make him look alternately like a thug, or a modern paladin. He prefers faded jeans, heavy boots, and clean, short-sleeved shirts. He wears a relic in the form of a patched biker's vest made of worm hide. Blue-black runic tattoos cover his arms, and his facial hair is meticulously groomed and now grows in 4 natural colors.
Awesome. That is quite the great character backstory there.
Punching Nazis!
Punching Nazis!
That's the best!
And yes, Jacob is from the Lindworm fight, and if you could tell from the subtle nods to the history of the great Nidhogger that ever read earlier, he is specific to Nidhogger. So do you want to go over what Jacob's callings are?
Sure. I am not familiar with everything about them.
That's okay.
But I can read them off to you.
Yeah, just read them off.
Scrolly. Okay. So his there's 2 things on the document. One says calling, and then the other says callings.
Right underneath his name and flight.
Okay. Callings are Destroyer at 1 dot, Guardian at 2, and Predator at 2.
Awesome. And then, if you want to go over what his draconic knacks and his magic are.
Yeah. His draconic knacks are Brutal Might and Devastating Dragon's Presence. And his draconic magic are Avarice, Decay, and Elemental Manipulation with a specialization in Frost.
Awesome. Very Nidhogger of him. Perfect. So, like we did for the others, what's a short-term personal goal Jacob might have? And I will totally accept the answer, punch a Nazi.
Punch a Nazi!
The correct answer.
Fantastic. I like it. Yes, so that will be your short-term world deed, will be to punch a Nazi.
Or
awesome.
flash freeze them and shatter them.
You know, how about...
Let's say shatter them by punching.
Bring harm to a Nazi. That just kind of covers all your bases there.
I'm for it.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you, Everett. All right. That leaves 2. Do you guys want to fight it out? Who goes next? No. I'm calling Don Dwayne.
Wait, could play rock, paper, scissors
please,
again,
no.
like we did during
Nope.
the break.
That went horribly. I'm just calling on Dwayne.
Rock,
Dwayne.
paper, scissors.
Okay. I am playing a pre-gen as well. My name is Chu Kai Wing, also known as Mitch to some. The majestic lineage of Kong Kong continues to clutch at the world like claws on a pearl. His descendants and heirs pride themselves on their business acumen, their connections to high society, and their ancient Auguste history. I am Chu Kai Wing, a son of the Chu family, and I was groomed for a life of well-born, exceptional service to our hidden patron. When I showed promising signs of eventually earning an inheritance, my family practically burst with pride. As I grew older, however, it became apparent that I was going to be a challenge. Among my friends in Hong Kong, I used the name Michigan, half ironically and half out of young reverence for treasure hunting action folks. Somewhere along the way, however, my Harrison Ford idolization wires got crossed, and exploration and history promised by archaeological studies still fascinated me. But more than that, I craved the illicit adventure of outwitting traps and outrunning guards. My infamy as a high society renegade soon outshined my reputation for being a bookish flunky of the uptight Chus, and I leaned into it as much as I could. When I wasn't flirting, driving too fast, or simply being idle, I was breaking and entering for the sheer fun of it. I was only caught a few times, but my parents had the wealth and connections to bail me out, but little patience to continue doing it. So when my irrepressible love of world history drew me to study abroad, my family was more than willing to abandon me to Stanford's care. I continued my semi-charmed life abroad, flirting with every pretty thing and interesting society I could gain access to, ignoring the vast majority of most of my responsibilities, and generally content to just be everyone's foreign fling. And it was this careless attitude that led me to accept a fateful invitation to a student historians meeting. It bored the hell out of me. But the drinks were free and the company was attractive enough. But it was all early major 200 level discussion. But when one of the attendees started bragging about her father bringing something back from his visit to a Shang Dynasty tomb, I forced myself back into the conversation. Of course, she had it with her. It took no prompting at all to convince her to bring it out of the crate that she had carted to the hall, pry it open before a meeting full of gaping spectators, and produce a bronze urn, or a bronze Zune vessel, thousands of years old. I found myself seething at the sight of it, being passed around like an amusing curio. Everyone agreed she should keep it in their meeting hall. They could even get a proper glass case for it at some point. I had no intention of letting it get that far. In the pre-dawn hours, I bypassed the hall's locks and pitiful security system to see the Zune vessel myself. My intentions had already been to reclaim the artifact and ship it home. Certainly someone in my family would know how to return it. No sooner did my gloved hands brush the ancient bronze, however, an inhuman prehistoric whisper filled my head. The moment I had unconsciously dreaded my entire life had come. I was being offered a bequeathal. The vessel was repatriated anonymously years later. I since graduated Stanford's history program despite my best efforts, and I now receive regular missives from my patron and their allies, instructing me on what to steal and from where. These missives also demand that I safeguard these stolen artifacts within my hoard, but so far, I have repatriated each and every one of them to their places of origin, much to my family's disappointment. Despite my talent, I have yet to leave a distinguishing clue or a calling card behind, and my identity as a master, expert historian thief is still a mystery to nearly everyone who knows me. I am a model, handsome, slender, angular being in my mid-20s. With deep brown eyes, flawless complexion, and effortless style. I have an exceptional sense of fashion without looking pretentious or elaborate. The kind of practice style for the idle rich, usually accented with a single earring, cutting-edge smartwatch, and glittering, ridiculously expensive class ring. Boom. I imagine like a cross between a...
Hold up. You got to read the last sentence.
Oh, okay. I likely spent more on my custom vape pen than other millennials would pay for a new car. Yeah, I imagine a Chinese one bean mixed with Derek Flint.
Okay. And remind us again of your flight and your patron.
So my flight was Long, and my patron was Hong Kong.
Perfect.
My callings are Collector 1, Mystic 2, and Nomad 2.
All right, and if you want to give us kind of a little bit about your draconic knacks and your magic.
So my draconic knacks and magic are all about not being seen. So my draconic knacks are Fade Away and Insatiable Collector. Fade Away. Where'd it go? Fade Away. As long as I'm standing still, I disappear, and not just like invisible. Like I don't exist there. Like you can move your hand through me.
Okay.
Insatiable Collector just means that when I'm claiming an object on a huge scale, I do so at a feet of scale.
Okay.
As far as my magic goes, I'm not gonna pull it. My dragon magics are Blessings, Illusion, Transformation, and Luck in parentheses. I don't know if I get that now or later.
You have it now. We'll say you have it now.
So I did put it down. So my blessings are, I think it was a typo. I think it's supposed to be Blessing of Perfection, not Protection.
Probably, yes.
It just makes me complete things easier or help others complete things easier.
Okay.
Out of Illusion, I get Clear Sight and Eyes Turned Away. Pretty much ability to see through all illusions and disguises and make people not be able to notice me. Turn a blind eye, if you will. Under Transformation, I have Hide Beneath Notice. I can pretty much change my body into some type of draconic form, like a small lizard, a snake, amphibian, and as long as I act like that animal, no one cares.
Nice.
What's a gecko hanging on the wall in this museum?
Probably fine.
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor? If
Yes.
you were ever a gecko, could you please lick your eyeball for me, just because that entertains me so very much?
I will try at least once during this playthrough.
Yes.
Dragon. I don't do that tongue thing.
I love Mushu.
And then out of luck, I have Second Chances and Stolen Luck. I'm able to help someone, or no, if I have a negative attitude with someone, I can pretty much wipe that clean with Second Chance. And then with Stolen Luck, I steal somebody's luck and impose the unlucky condition on them and get bonuses to my rolls.
Fantastic. Yeah, sounds like you're gonna be the go-to infiltration specialist.
Yep.
Alrighty. And then there was one. Tyler.
So, there is a pre-made for Drac. We didn't use it because I'm a control freak, but it's a cool pre-made for anyone who gets the manuscripts. So I have created Rashid Carter. What is chaos theory? It's 1,000 coins flung into the air, each one wavering in the course of its rise and fall between justice and greed. tenderness and blood, calamity and boredom. I am not the face of a coin, praying for fate to favor my side. I am the hand that makes the toss. I am the trajectory. I am the violence in the wind that tosses the coin. Countless conditions determine every outcome, and I strive to know and manipulate them all. 1,000 coins tumble down, and I formulate the equations and models to predict where each and every one will fall. And when they've all fallen, I will adjust accordingly, and then fling them back into the air. Because I am Drac, and we take chaos far beyond theory. My concept. A man leaps off a high-rise, flapping his arms all the way down. Across the world a moon cycle later, the tsunami savages a coastal town. What connected those events? The motion of his arms, the scream of despair, silenced by terminal velocity, the chemical composition of the ink in the letter he left, the light refracting in the tears of she who read it, the pattern of his wet Rorschach impact on the cracked pavement. I don't know, but I'll find out, even if I have to push him off the building to discover the truth. Rashid Carter was born to an American diplomat father and a very beautiful, well-placed, groomed to seduce the man Iranian mother. From the start, they worked each other. And from the start, they both convinced the other they were the turncoat when neither truly was, because the diplomat also worked for the American government, but not necessarily for the diplomatic corps. So, my origin is the violence in the wind. Both of my parents were spies and double agents, and I grew up in that environment, both of them trying to teach me the lessons they didn't want the other to learn while maintaining the face of a happy marriage. Does that show you like so much, Steve?
The Americans.
Like that, if one of them was an American CIA spy and they were still married.
Mhm.
Well, you see, what had happened was, if you watch the ship, no.
My role path is the hand that makes the toss. When I grew up, I used those lessons from both of my parents. Who do I really work for? Depends on who you ask. The Revolutionary Guard thinks I'm a Quds Force external agent. The Egyptian General Intelligence Service thinks I work for them. Mossad thinks I work for them. The Syrian Military Intelligence Agency thinks I work for them. The French DSRD is sure I work for them. Also, MI5 and CIA. I am a Octuple agent. I am a Wetworks specialist. Because my flight path is when the gods and men have decimated each other, we will rebuild the world from the ruins of their arrogance. Bring it all
I feel
down.
like our characters are either going to be best friends or worst enemies.
Exactly. As far as my character's actual background, I mean, I can tell you, the story I'm going to tell you is going to be different from the story I'm going to tell Rachel's character or Ever's character. Because the truth doesn't matter. All that matters is the chaos I create along the way, especially between world governments. Destabilize the world, baby. Like I said, this is a Wetworks character who specializes in doing all the nasty things, like breaking in, bypassing security, and murdering all the targets. Established body count is somewhere in the high 50s for every one of those organizations I mentioned. Combined would be the total, plus all the ones they don't know about. And the collateral damage. Dragon magic for the flight would actually be Pandemonium, Fire, Flight. Fire, Fear, and Understanding. We have swapped Fire with Illusions because there's a lot of fire in the party and we wanted some variety. So, and I also have Dragon magic from my Horde, which includes the Fang of Tiamat, which was given to me by another very mysterious agent who taught me some of the best tricks I know when I was a very young dude, still trying to make my way through the dark world of CIA training. He seemed to appear out of nowhere, taught me a lot of valuable lessons, and left me his personal weapon. And she said he had taken through two major wars with him. Looks like a K-bar, except when it doesn't, when it looks like a dagger, except when it doesn't, when it looks like a sword. And yeah, the Fang of Tiamat is what my bequeathal was. After the bequeathal awoke me to my true nature, he disappeared. When I asked around, of course, he'd never been there in the first place. So, I have Pandemonium, Illusions, Flight, and Understanding. The spells I have are Eyes Turned Away, which makes it so that you just don't notice me if I don't want you to. Minor Chaos, I can just walk around and make chaos happen, including making those bullets coming at me hit someone else. Paralyzing Disorder, you'll have to wait and see what that does. It's going to be amazing. Telekinesis, which is exactly what it sounds like. Foresight, which lets me see what's about to happen so I can direct it. If Patty wants a mook to punch me, I can say, nope, that's not what I foresaw. You punch the other mook instead, and that's just what happens. Piercing Gaze, which lets me see through chaos and illusions and lies to the truth. And Organization of Chaos, which lets me destabilize entire companies. Or do convenient things like, what arrest record? We never got arrested. I don't even know why I'm in this police station. Dragon Nax. Hold on. Got this somewhere. He doesn't mess around. He has Dragon's Breath, because somebody needs to be able to breathe like a dragon in this game. And Fade Away. When I hold still or rest, as long as I'm not taking any aggressive physical action, I just literally disappear and you forget I was there.
Perfect. Yeah, so it's going to fall to the fact that Tyler's character is probably the most experienced of all of you as far as going on these clandestine missions. And may or may not be the linchpin to your brood forming here. So, we have heard from all of our characters about their flights and their characters themselves. And
I forgot to tell you, Patty, I gave you one other thing you'd asked about. Wetworks guy needs a name. I haven't figured out exactly how to pronounce that in Farsi yet, so I'm not going to try. But it's Bloody Whisper. And as far as his appearance, he looks like a young Naveed Negabon. If you look that up, you'll know who it is. He's a creepy villain guy in almost every cool movie you've ever seen, probably.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. So, that's pretty much all I had planned for tonight. Your first mission will be next week. Yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the night. I want to go ahead and say it has been a pleasure detailing the awesome stuff that is Scion Dragon. If you haven't already, go check out the Kickstarter. It's amazing. You can choose the Kickstart, just Dragon, just Mythos, or both of them. It's already been funded, but every additional pledge gets us closer to more and more stretch goals, which just unlocks more stuff for each thing, which just makes more content that makes your games more better. So you should more donate. We hope that you will consider that. We also hope to see you next week when our brood gets their first mission, as well as we'll go over how they were formed and what their goals might be that are put forth in front of them. I want to thank our Patreon supporters, Weapon M, Don Arnetto, and David. And now we'll hear from our players one last time. What's your name, your handle, your character's name, and where people can find you outside of Robotos?
I'm at Space Lord PJs. You can find me GMing tomorrow for an Infinity show. I'd like to put forth the vote with our brood that we're called the Rude Brood, which sounds awesome. Also, I'm going to play Lorenzo, the Serpent.
Hey everybody, I'm Ever, and my pronouns are, as always, they, them. You can find me all over the internet as Changeling Ever, and you can find me on Etsy as Neat & Co. Designs. Neat as in, that's a really neat jacket you have, Ever. And yes, thank you, I got it at a thrift store. It was not, in fact, 99 cents. Anyway.
Really cool pins.
Yes, thank you. Also, I did not mean to say yes, thank you, but thank you. Sorry, words, foot in mouth, taste terrible. Anyway, yes, you will find me playing Jacob the Lindworm next week, and I will be live tweeting Infinity tomorrow, but I will not be in it.
I am Tyler, Elder Jekyll's Online. and I will be playing Rashid Carter in this game. The next game you can catch me in is as the Vampire Noble in Dwayne's Grim Hollow game on Thursday.
My name is Rachel. You can find me Stolen Fires pretty much everywhere. On Thursday evening at 9:30 Eastern, I will be right back here on the Onyx Path channel, and I will be running a Changeling the Dreaming games. Currently set in the Victorian era, my players have for some reason decided to antagonize the technocracy. So, that should be fun. I just wanted them to go find the Immortal Eyes, and now they're like, no, we're gonna pick a fight with these mages right here. That's gonna be fun. Yeah, in fact, it will be fun. So yeah, that is 9:30 Eastern. And then on Sunday, I'm gonna be playing in the White Walls, Mage 20 Cult Mythos mashup run by Tyler. It's gonna be super Gnostic. I'm so looking forward to it.
You might call it awesome. Mic drop.
I'll take it.
And I am Dwayne, at Made of Kimchi on the internet, and tonight and the next time we play this, I will be playing Bitch. The next time you guys will see me will be on Thursday, GMing Grim Hollow, where our party will make it into the eastern portions of the asylum.
Gasp.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, we just got massively raided.
I was just about to say, thank you, everybody. I just want to say, first off, thank you so much to Hunters Entertainment with the raid of 63 people. Welcome, everyone, to the Onyx Path channel. We all together are Vorpal Tales. You came in at the very tail end. We're just wrapping up our session 0, where we introduced all of our characters. So tune in again next week. See all of us actually playing the game, and you'll get to see what Dragon is like, which is currently on Kickstarter from the Onyx Path. So be sure to check that out. Thank you for the raid. So sorry that it's right at the end. But I am Steve. You can find me on the internet at Vorpal Tale. Nope, that's incorrect. You can find me on the internet at Voodoo Arcade. I play for Vorpal Tales. I will be playing Ambrosia Cook. And you can find me next on Thursday for Kimchi's Grim Hollow as I inquisitionate the asylum.
Awesome. And I have been Patty Shakes _. That's where you can find me on the internet everywhere. And we'll have to revisit our airs next week. But in the meantime, I encourage you, please check out Vorpal Tales' other shows, which includes tomorrow is Wednesday, Seth Infinity by Scion. Thursday, as our players have mentioned, several of them will be in Kimchi's Grimdark Chronicles. Friday is me doing Scarlands, Titan's Lament, Draco Genesis. Saturday, we're starting...
Session 3.
Continuing Deviant. Sunday, that's at 10 p.m. It's different from our usual time. Sunday, Mage the Ascension, White Walls. That's a short little runoff we're doing.
No,
Monday?
White Walls is a chronicle. We've got 70 episodes planned already.
Oh, okay.
And vibrating with
It's the
excitement.
crossover.
Cult was the one shot. White Walls is a Mage 20th Anniversary Edition Cult crossover game.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of then. Then Monday is our Cyberpunk game, run by the amazing Maren Recluse. And next week, same time, same place, starting at 9, you'll see us doing session 1 of Scion Dragon. As Steve said, it is currently on Kickstarter. You should totally check it out and back it. We're not going to vote tonight. Instead, I'm going to reward you all for being awesome readers of your flight's history, as well as coming up with great things to say about your characters. You all will get one extra willpower. No, not willpower. That's wrong game. One extra free use of your inheritance, which is the fuel source for your spells and some of your other things. So you'll get one free use of that. You'll all get that for the next episode. So congratulations. Thanks for being awesome. We hope you enjoyed hearing about Dragon, learning more about it, our characters, what's to expect coming up. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome, stay adventurous, and make good choices.
Bye.